Hi, Mandy. Let us know if you want us to do a sound check.
I'm also here. I'm ready for whenever you need us. Can you hear me, Rosie?
Yes, I can hear you.
That's good. The sound is good?
Yes,
Perfect. That's all I needed to know.
thank you.
Thank you.
Is this your crew? This is my crew, yeah. This is Miss Sierra Darton.
Hi, Nicole.
Nicole, nice to meet you. Eric, nice to meet you. Miss Grace, she's on our student senate. She's awesome. So excited. You're great student too. Yes, it's good to see you. You'll get to know me. Yeah. Student senate. And we're going to make it a lot of fun. So I'm just excited to meet you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Really appreciate
She's
it.
excited to be here.
You're gonna be phenomenal. All right.
I swear there's excited.
Man. Doing what? I had my
Her sister really works.
Yeah, beautiful for that.
What's her name?
Okay,
Mr. Banfield, can you hear that in your ear? Is that coming through okay?
okay.
Is your hearing aid working? Is that picking up or no? Yeah? Okay, cool.
Okay, if we're good, good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled September 16th meeting of the San Luis Coastal Unified School District Board of Trustees. Okay, I'm getting a signal that I don't know what it means. Okay, the board met previously in closed session. Okay, I'm reminded that we have translation services available for anyone that is present in the room and requires translation. If you go to see Mrs. Dawson, she will give you some headphones and connect you up. If you are participating via Zoom, if you go to the bottom of your screen to the globe icon and press on that, you'll be directed to translation services.
Buenas tardes, bienvenidos. Vamos a tener servicios de interpretación. Si necesitan de estos servicios, por favor, en la parte inferior de la pantalla, una vez que yo termine de hablar, va a aparecer un globo terráqueo. Por favor, seleccionen el globo terráqueo y presionen español. Gracias y bienvenidos.
Thank you.
Muchísimas
Board met
gracias.
Did I hear something? I'm just going to press on here. Okay, the board met previously in closed session. We discussed 2 cases of anticipated litigation. We did a personnel review, and then we conferred with our labor negotiators and legal counsel and Dr. Puccia regarding employee organizations, the confidentials, CSEA, MEC, SEIU, and SLCTA. And no decisions were made, and no direction was actually given. Okay, do we have consensus on the order of business? Seeing we do, we'll move on then to student representatives to the board. And I am starting this evening with Asa Vidadi from Morro Bay High School.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone. I am Asa. I lack a little card, but I'm here representing Morro Bay High School as the senior class president. Thank you to the board for having me. Our slideshow to begin. I don't know if that's something I put up. You got it. Sweet. It's been a quite eventful couple weeks now since we've met, and it's kind of fun now because I can go a little more in depth because just more stuff has happened and we're less in the early stages and we're more into the ball is rolling at Morro Bay now. There we go. All right. Just getting right into it. There we are. Okay, so starting with academics, our biology class got a great chance to head on down to our harbor, which is a very unique place, especially considering our school location. So they did a lot of research under the docks. As you can see, that is our harbor department and our Coast Guard station allowed them to go down on the harbor department docks because they're actually very untouched docks and they saw a lot of marine life. Our FFA held their Green Hand Challenge. That is radical. So that's just a set of outdoor challenges. I know they ate afterwards together. And then this was last week and we had our wellness week. And if you guys may know, if you've been staying in touch with Morro Bay, we had a wellness center open up last year. And kind of the star of the show here is Miss Willis, who is our wellness counselor. She really just kind of steers the ship with everything wellness related. And our wellness center and our wellness week is just all poised to allow our students to feel heard, maybe overcome any challenges in their life, whether that be social or physical. So it really is just truly a opportunity for students to heal or just a resource for them to overcome anything in their life. So after that, we're moving on to more of our, I have to click. There we are. This is a more, now these are our AP classes. So this was our AP World History class. We, again, utilized the ability that we are right on the beach, and they actually went down and recreated some famous monuments, a couple of them being the Hagia Sophia, the Great Zimbabwe. Yeah, it was totally, I mean, again, these kids are waking up early in the morning, using their block period to go alongside a written report of these monuments. They go create them on a sand. Like, what a special opportunity. Moving on to clubs, there we go. Our club rush happened. I know Slow Highs was just 2 weeks prior, and that was a great success. As you can see, there's a whole lot of kids in our quad, and that's a lot of our school right there. So our students are involved in clubs. It's such a great opportunity to, whether that's you want to start your own club. So I know that, for instance, our Polar Bear Dip Club just started. Yeah, I mean, we have such a thriving student life, especially around clubs. And so just a couple pictures right there. That is our mock trial down in Santa Barbara. They went against Santa Barbara High School. And then that's our surf team. And we even host. Our surf team is great because, I mean, I was just out there Monday morning of this week, and you'll see kids from Loams out there. We have a couple Atascadero surfers surfing with us. And it's just, and even though Atascadero is our competition, or for instance, we had some Slow High students, you just see them out in the water and you're hanging out and you're like, dude, you just got a great ride. And so our surf team is wonderful, and so are the rest of our clubs. Moving on to sports, we had, there we are. We hosted our cross-country invitational, and this is a big deal for our cross-country program. We host about 1,900 runners. So that's that bottom picture. And I think that's around 70 schools across California. So super big deal. I know we had some girls runner, Shelby Taylor, who took home first in the tournament, and we had multiple other placements high up. Our girls volleyball, the varsity team went to go play in a San Diego tournament, and they also got a chance to tour San Diego State, which was definitely beneficial for both those seniors and juniors on the team. And then I can personally attest to this. Our boys varsity water polo team went to Austin, Texas to play. Definitely a unique experience. They got to go see a Longhorns game. It was very hot. It was the temperature was high in Austin. All right, now on to kind of an upcoming or looking into the future of what's going on both this week, next week, and the week after. So we have our mock trial will be moving down south for another tournament. They're such an active club on our campus. And then our Powder Puff will begin the next week, so that's next Friday. And our skit rally will take place on the following week. Now, to what everyone is excited for, our homecoming. And that our theme was revealed today, and that is Echoes of the Deep. So that's going to be like an underwater themed dance, which is quite suited for where we are. And our morbid dances are very unique in that we have like kind of this trademarked neon dance, and we do a lot of other things at our dances that are kind of, we get a lot of schools asking, hey, can we actually try that out, or can we use this theme idea that you used, okay? And so with that comes a lot of students from other schools coming to our dances. We have some of the highest rates of guest passes, which is just wonderful. I mean, considering our size, we're able to pull from AG. We're getting kids from Templeton, Atascadero, Paso, SLO, coming to our dances and enjoying. A lot of the big reason for that is just the the nature of the dance. We've recently incorporated student DJs, and that brought with it a lot more of a looser vibe, in the sense that you have a fellow student appear on stage rather than maybe a young adult that you don't know. So that's been a very cherished characteristic of Morbe dances. That is all from me. Thank you so much to the board for having me. We'll talk in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no questions, then we'll move on to Zoe Fuji from San Luis Obispo High School.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zoe Fuji. I am the ASB president of San Luis Obispo High School. Unlike Asa, I do have a placard, so unfortunately, it should be a little bit easier to remember my name. But with that, let's get into the slideshow. We've had a pretty eventful last 2 weeks in regards to our athletics. Our girls volleyball team defeated Nipomo during the week of September 1st through 5th, and then hosted the Slowtown Showdown that weekend, where 16 of the best teams in the state came to just completely fill our 2 gyms. I was there on that weekend, and it was a zoo. It was the biggest nightmare, but it was also just kind of incredible to see so many teams show up. In that, Slow High School earned tourney champion honors. Jules Cargill earned tournament MVP, and Ella Buchanan and Maddie Emus made the all-tournament team. And then our girls water polo team also had a great week. They had won over Morro Bay, and Edison. Our boys water polo team was also able to beat San Ynez, so we also want to give a big congrats to them. Our girls golf team defeated Arroyo Grande and stayed undefeated in their season so far. And our girls flag football team won big at their very first home opener. This is a really big first for us. We are so proud of them. We were just able to introduce this as well as our girls dance team to our campus this year. So it's kind of incredible to see things already going off to such a good start. We also had our football team travel to AG on Friday night, and our cross country team had their first race of the season on Saturday, 9-6, where the girls team finished first and the boys team finished third. That was 2 weeks ago. And then this last week, again, there's just so much to unpack with our athletics. We're so proud of them. But our girls water polo team started off the week strong with a win over Nipomo, and then defeated Paso on Wednesday. Our girls tennis went 3-0, defeating San Marcos, Clovis West, and Sanger. Girls volleyball went on the road again and had another huge weekend, becoming tournament champions for the second week in a row. There was a shout out to Bailey Hartford and Jules Cargill, which were awarded all tournament honors, and Ella Buchanan was the tournament MVP. Our girls volleyball team is one of the bigger prides of Slow High School. They are so incredible, and we are always so proud of them. Girls flag football won their first league game, and then football went down to the wire over with Nipomo on Friday night. And this football game was a home game, so we had a theme, and the theme was Neon Night, but I can talk about that more later because that's more ASB based. But that was also our Hall of Fame and athletics night, so we were able to honor so many people who had went to Slow High and earned awards, and it was just really incredible to see everyone there. Our boys water polo team traveled down to the Thrills in the Hills tournament on Saturday and went against some of the best in the state. And then again, cross country traveled to Morro Bay, where the boys team finished second and the girls team won their entire division. We are just so proud of all of our sports. I give special mention to them because they are all doing such an amazing job. They all work so hard. I feel like I always see them traveling to all these tournaments, and we are just so proud of them. Next up for the arts, we had our 24-hour musical September 5th through 6th. It was such a fun show to put on. This was actually our largest cast ever, with over 100 people participating. I myself participated. I was Baby Bear in The Three Bears. That was kind of my big breakout role. I expect Broadway to be calling anytime soon. We also have our first musical of the year, which is going to be the 25th annual Putnam Spelling Bee. I mentioned this last time, but we are so proud of them. They have been working so hard. It's just a musical where there's so many different types of kids participating with different attitudes. One of them was saying that their character was like a bratty girl who just wanted to win the whole thing, and the other one was a kid who does nothing but study all day. But this one has audience participation, apparently, so this will be such a fun show for them to put on. We also have our newspaper called Slow High School Expressions already consistently putting out articles on their website, and they are soon coming to print. Our TNN team, which stands for Tiger News Network, is our everyday news, and they're all just diving straight into it. They're all doing their own stories and showing their student voice through the arts. We are so proud of them. All right, and then for our ASB update, buckle in because this is our homecoming week, so there's kind of a lot to talk about. But in ASB updates, first, we had our lifeguard week 2 weeks ago in honor of Suicide Prevention Month, with events hosted that Tuesday and Thursday in the Wellness Center. We also have pretty new to the campus. I believe this is its 3rd year on our campus, but it is a really good source for students to have if they ever need to talk about anything. There's students there to support them and also counselors and therapists there, so that's just really nice. Last Wednesday, we had our club rush as well, which was a huge success. We didn't get any photos of it because every single time we do it, it's kind of just like 300 kids just packed onto the blacktop, and then all of a sudden they all have to go back to class. So it was just so much fun. We love to see everyone supporting their clubs. On Friday, we had our neon night football game. Everyone had construction vests. There was a couple photos on there in the top right corner of the slideshow. Everyone had glow sticks, neon wigs, and face paint. Everyone, see, the thing with Slow High is that everyone likes to be like, oh, what do we do for our theme? And then every single time they come, and they always show out. It was such a fun game. This week for our ASB, as I mentioned, this is our homecoming week. On Monday, yesterday, we had our homecoming rally, which we introduced all of our fall sports. We introduced our court grand marshal, which was Miss Nussbaum. She's our ASL teacher. She is beloved by the students. She is so amazing. We love her so much. And then we also introduced all of our homecoming court nominees. We also had performances from our dance and cheer teams. And we had so many fun audience participation games, some of which were not fully grasped by the audience, but it was fun nonetheless. One of my favorite parts of the rally is that this week our theme is A Night in New York. And so yesterday, usually it's a bit difficult to get students to dress up for obviously homecoming week, any dress up days, but every single class was dressed up in their assigned colors because our theme is A Night in New York. And so Monday was Battle of the Boroughs. So we gave each different school or different class their own colors. So the freshmen were red, sophomores were green, and then juniors blue, seniors white. And I just looked out and I was like, wow, everyone actually did dress up. And that was so incredible to see. We also had a HOCO hallway, which is down in the middle of the slideshow. It is a full skyline of New York City with the words "A Night in New York." There are stars in the side in this ceiling. Yeah, they're like taped on through. I don't know how they were able to do that, but it just looks so amazing. And this Friday is our homecoming football game, which is by far our most exciting football game other than every single girls flag football game. But we are so proud of them, and knock on wood, we hope to cheer them to victory. On Saturday is our dance. Everything with homecoming is a bit much, but it will all be so worth it. We are so proud of our activities commissioners, Yahira and Parker, who have spent so much time and effort into this, and we have no doubts in their abilities. I have no doubt that Saturday is going to be one of the best homecoming dances we have as of yet. And then for our upcoming events, we have, obviously, as I already mentioned, our homecoming football game on Friday night, and then our homecoming dance. And then the musical will be going on September 25th through 27th, and then again through October 2nd through 4th. And then we have on the 4th a athletics booster bash, so we encourage everyone to go out and support. And then we have a jazz concert on the 6th. And that is all from San Luis Obispo High School. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you both very much. Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Clausen.
I just want to say you guys are crushing the updates, and thank you for all the preparation and energy. It's really cool. Thank you.
Okay, and so then I would add that you are certainly welcome to stay, enjoy the meeting, and participate if you'd like. But we are also mindful that you have other things and homework and commitments. So if you need to leave, you're welcome to do so, and we thank you for participating with us.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Next up, item 5.02 is the Monarch Grove program highlights. Mr. Goosens.
Okay, I brought reinforcements tonight. Do we have slides coming up here? I gotta say, it makes a difference coming here from Monarch Grove rather than Arroyo Grande High School, as I did last year. So that's already off to a great start. And I'll wait a little bit to get these slides going. Do I need the clicker? Thank you. Perfect. All right, thank you so much. So I'm Principal Clark Goosen at Monarch Grove Elementary, and I'm gonna go through some celebrations and updates with you with my distinguished fifth grade student here.
Hi, I'm Sierra Darnton, and I'm a fifth grade student at Monarch Grove Elementary School, and I'm participating on the Student Senate team this year.
Okay, so we're gonna start off discussing a little bit about our school data and student achievement. Start off with some state testing from last school year. We're at about 70% proficiency levels in both ELA and math. Very good when you measure that up against really any averages. Mind you, when you measure it up against our school year last year, it's tough to beat the 75% range-ish that we had the year before. So that's something that we want to close that gap back on this year. Looking at our state science testing as well, we were at about 50% this school year in terms of students passing that. This was a hard test, and district results mirror that as well. Still not happy with it, want to address it, and we're working on that. We have things like our garden with One Cool Earth time, and then, yeah, we're hoping to address this through our scheduling as well. But again, above state averages, generally speaking, our kids are doing a great job. It was a tough test last year. Some other ways that so how are we addressing these academic pieces? First and foremost, it starts with our multi-tiered system of support. I cannot emphasize enough how important this is to our school site and our students, that they receive these supports. And multi-tiered system of support, I know that sounds like mumbo jumbo. It's a safety net for all kids, whether it's for academics or whether it's for social emotional pieces, right, with our counseling. There's really 3 different tiers of support that students can receive. So from tier 1 is core instruction. Think of that as in the classroom. All students get it. Tier 2 is small group support. So teachers can provide that in the classroom to students, or whose picture you're seeing on the slide right now is Miss Leilani Green, our student success specialist, or SLCUSD as they're also called. She manages a program where small groups of students, groups of 3 at a time, generally speaking, come out of the classroom, work with our academic intervention teachers, and they receive targeted support in reading. So that's a fantastic program. Last year, you can see the numbers of students who went through it each trimester. And then tier 3 is generally one-on-one support that's reserved more often for students with disabilities and things of that nature. But it's not uncommon for me to have a one-on-one conversation with a kiddo, or a counselor for that matter, or even a teacher. Prop 28 time with teachers. I know you may think of Prop 28 time, that's the funding we receive to allow us to have art, right, for all our students. But also, like, during that time, it's so valuable because I get time, my SLCUSD gets time working directly with our teachers on our site goals. So it's really valuable professional development time and collaboration time for us. This year, we are really putting a focus on small group instruction in the classroom so that all students can receive these supports, not just the ones who are appearing at risk on our reading screeners. And then another piece that we are focusing on this year academically and in terms of achievement is our thinking map. So this is something Monarch Grove has been familiar with for many years. In fact, it's been a pride of the school for a lot of time. I think maybe with initiatives like our new benchmark curriculum, right, and the heavy lift that imposed on teachers as they're becoming more acclimated with that, they are now wanting to put this more at the forefront, and that is our thinking maps and incorporating it into our curriculum. Thinking maps, it's a way to organize thoughts. So to go from abstract idea to pen to paper, or to communicating to your teacher what some complex topic means. That extends from science to reading to math. Anything you could think about, you could put into a thinking map. There's different types. for different purposes. Sierra's going to talk about one purpose that she's used a thinking map for.
So, thinking maps are helpful for students to jot down ideas and organize their thoughts before writing them. And then also one time when I wrote an informational paper, I used a tree map to help me identify the main points and subtopics for my writing before writing them down.
Thank you so much, Sierra. Yeah, when we were going through the slides, Sierra said, oh yeah, I've used those before, and that's helpful for me. So thank you so much for sharing that example. In the social emotional learning arena, we are really excited as a school. We've decided to go in lockstep with Second Step, excuse my pun there. So what we're doing on every Friday from 8:20 to about 9 o'clock, all teachers are using Second Step curriculum. That's social emotional curriculum provided to us through district funding. And so with that, we're all on the same kind of pace, and the lessons, they build throughout the grade levels, but the themes are more or less the same. So it allows us as a site to incorporate fun activities like buddies time, so our fifth graders can help teach our TKers, and our second graders, and then our kindergartners can work with our fourth graders, right? So we are really trying to build this out as a school site and build community through the process as well. We're also doing 6 assemblies throughout the year, coordinating it with Second Step lessons. So the picture that you're seeing there is our TK leading our school in song. For the first assembly, that one wasn't quite as exciting because I was at the helm of that one, but eventually we'll get, like our fifth graders are gonna present at the next one and make it a fun, exciting assembly. But yeah, what students learn during that, they learn how to set goals, they learn how to understand their emotions, how to build empathy for one another, and solve difficult problems. Here's some more pictures from that. You could see most TKers listening to me read, and then you can see all TKers listening to Mr. Keenan Nagley, our counselor, read to them. And then you're also seeing some snapshots of our buddies on the bottom there. That's Adrian with his younger brother and TK. And they're having a good time. It's been great. Some siblings get some time to spend some time with their younger siblings on campus. Also, as a school site, we have decided to join the social emotional behavior cohort. So this is a county program, and again, funded through the district. This provides us an avenue to address establishing common rules as a site, using common language among teachers. We're all using respect, responsibility, and safety when we address behaviors, both good and bad, especially the good. And then also just to build out some language for the whole school community. But this system will allow us to address behavior campus-wide. It allows us to provide positive reinforcement. And we're at the very beginning stages of it. We're having our first meeting this upcoming week. So more to come on that later, hopefully. You can see we did a little bit of this work at the end of last school year. We established like a flow chart for discipline. So when does a student need to go to the office versus when does a teacher manage that behavior? One thing we also did on the positive side is we want to recognize students for doing the right thing. So we have these gotcha cards here. I think one may be in order for Sierra for showing so much responsibility coming up here tonight. But when a student gets a gotcha card, we're trying to build intrinsic motivation. So we take their picture and we put it up on our bulletin board outside of our office. And that's the reward. I'll try to make a phone call home most of the time as well, but they get a card for showing one of those safe, responsible, or respectful, one of those core values. And then we have our student leadership program, which Miss Sierra is going to lead us through. Our teacher, Miss Alex Newland, is in charge of this, and it incorporates both fourth and fifth graders.
So we've had 2 meetings so far, and we've had a lot of students show up. We've discussed how to make a difference at our school by supporting the custodians and helping them clean up our school campus, and then helping the assemblies run smoother, and building a stronger community throughout our school with Spirit Wear Days. And then also we worked on the interview process and how to prepare for the interview for leadership. And then we also discussed what makes a good leader, which is always doing the right thing, being responsible, setting an example as a role model, and showing others how to learn from mistakes.
Great job, Sierra. Thank you. Some celebrations from Monarch Grove. We got the 24-25 California Distinguished School Award, something I could take no credit for, but those great teachers and our superintendent, Ms. Stephanie Shepard, certainly played a role in supporting, and all of you on the board, of course. So yeah, we're proud of that. That's just for overall school achievement, but it's a huge deal. I also want to celebrate our PTA. They have worked so hard to provide us with resources that enrich our students' experience. You know, thinking of like smaller community building events, we had our movie night last Friday. We've got our fun run coming up on October 17th. That's a major fundraiser for us. But they took on One Cool Earth, all of it, like all that funding. So we're able to provide that garden time and give students a little bit of hands-on science experience at school. They're also funding all of our TK through third grade music, which is no small feat. And we love our teacher, Miss Alyssa Geis there. And then they're also funding, and I'm really excited about this. You just learned about this, I think, recently, but in the second half of the school year, we'll have ceramics classes for all students. So that's TK through fifth grade. They'll be producing some clay art. A little Measure D update. First of all, like, this is a huge challenge for teachers, for myself, for Mr. Pinkerton, Mr. Bonnet, and for you as a board, but we have felt so supported throughout this process. It's come with its challenges. We have a resilient student body, we have resilient staff on campus, and we're getting a ton of support from everyone in the community, including all those in attendance here. So thank you. Some good news, like we had rooms 1 through 7 open up recently, and we have teachers moved in there, and then we have rooms 8 through 11 just getting finished up this week, and teachers have begun the move-in process there. And then T2 later this week, that'll be YMCA, so we'll move that in a little bit later. And next up will be our fifth grade classrooms, but it's going well, and we're getting through it, and the campus looks amazing. For those of you who've been out there, you've seen it. That's what I have. That's what we have for you tonight. Thank you so much for joining me, Sierra, and helping out. I do want to say, I floated this idea to Sierra on Friday and gave her very little notice, and she did such an incredible job. I said, hey, you wouldn't want to present at the board meeting next Tuesday, would you? And she said, yeah, I think I will. I wasn't expecting to get anything from her, but tremendous courage that you've shown coming here tonight. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you both very much for a great presentation. Let's see, Mr. Unger, followed by Mrs. Sheffer.
So you were talking about second step, and this may be a question for Ms. Yamashita, but it sounds like some of the things that we're talking about in second step are also things that Athletics for Achievement is working toward in terms of the coaching outside of the actual physical sports. Can you talk a little bit about whether those two things are dovetailing to each other?
Yeah, of course, it requires a lot of emotional regulation, managing conflict, whether you're playing an athletic sport or being part of a classroom or being part of any community. And so it's true in elementary school, Second Step is our adopted curricular program that we're delivering for social emotional learning. They have anger management units. Empathy units, and that translate then at our middle level. We have a new program called Wayfinder that we're implementing through the advisory and tutorial, and those would all be skills that students would, should use and be referenced by coaches while they're engaged in athletic activities. So, yes.
Mrs. Sheffer.
Sierra, I think this is a question for you, but feel free to use Mr. Goosen's help should you need it. One of the slides mentioned that you're helping assemblies run smoother, and I'm wondering if you can give an example of that. What does that look like? What do you do to help that? Because assemblies are generally a whole lot of kids packed into one room at the same time.
So we haven't actually started that yet, but like how we can help assemblies run smoother is by walking around and trying to help calm the students down and just make them quieter. So then for the assemblies we can get across the point we need to get across and teach them something, and just helping like with whatever people need for the assemblies.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's a
Thanks
great
very
answer,
much.
Sierra. Yeah, we've had our first 2 meetings, I think, for leadership so far. So we're really still hammering out responsibilities in there.
Mrs. Baltodano.
Thank you both for the great presentation. Sierra, I was really interested that you're learning to use thinking maps. Those are really, really helpful tools. And actually, you've given me an idea to take back to my law students, because sometimes really complicated ideas could use a thinking map. So thank you for sharing that with us today.
Okay, Mr. Clausen.
Nasir, I just wanted to thank you for coming to present to us, as well, you too, Mr. Goosen. But I just wanted to hear a little more about leadership. Basically, what are your favorite things about leadership at Monarch Grove?
So I did leadership last year, and I just really enjoyed being able to help give ideas into how to make a difference at our school and just how to make Monarch Grove a stronger and a better community for all the students. And I want to do it again this year because I just feel like I had a really good time last year, and I just want to help out with our school more.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, Mr. Banfield.
I have a question for our young presenter.
Which one? oh, okay. Sierra.
What do you think are some of the things that Monarch Grove School is doing for you to get you ready to go to the middle school?
I feel like, well, we haven't really started like preparing us for middle school yet, but I feel like something that helps me in class is we've started switching between the 2 fifth grade classes and learning different subjects in different classes. So we, after recess, we'll normally switch into the other class, and we'll just it helps us learn how to get the materials we need into the other classes and just prepare ourselves for middle school when we're switching classes, and we need to make sure that we have all the materials that we need for that class.
Okay, seeing no additional questions, so thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you. I do want to say one of those teachers is here tonight supporting Sierra, next to Sierra's mom there, Nicole. That's Lisa Pollock.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming and sharing a bit about Monarch Grove with us. Okay, moving on, we have item 6.01, correspondence. At the time the agenda was prepared, no correspondence had been received. Item 6.02 is public comment. And before we begin public comment, I should say that you will be limited to 3 minutes. You may not cede your time to anyone else. This time is really intended to provide the opportunity for people who want to speak to items that are not on the agenda or who are unable to stay until their agenda item has been reached. So we just ask that you be cordial and respectful, and we'll entertain public comment now.
Thank you. I have one request for under general public comment, and that is Ben Lippert.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ben Lippert. Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. I'm not going to try to jam a 30-minute presentation into 3 minutes of public comment. That would be disastrous, right? Instead, I just want to talk about why those details matter. And to me and to a lot of the parents I talk to, and it really just comes down to transparency and accountability. Three weeks ago, myself and a group of parents were in a meeting with district staff and some lobbyists that work on legislative solutions to the budget deficit, and it was billed as a frank discussion. One lobbyist had said that they plan on moving forward with a plan to get money for next year, which is awesome. When parents asked for some details on the plan, any details, they flat out said, I'm not going to tell you. And this has not been unique in the past few months. You know, I've been told by a member of the board of supervisors they wouldn't talk to me about details of the county's involvement in SB 846. My first exposure to district staff was pressing for details on how TK closure made it into a deck in February. As a parent, my interest in this whole process is to look out for my daughters. And this lack of detail sometimes is really disheartening. And as you can probably tell, because I'm usually up here kind of gesticulating and ranting, and it's kind of frustrating too. And I get it, I'm a random dad, I don't have any political clout, I don't have money to throw around, but I can learn, I can find details, and I can talk to people. Not public speaking, but on the phone, pretty good, right? What I want to ask for is, because I can't hold the lobbyist responsible, what I can do in this room right now is ask you all up there care about the details they won't share with us. I want you to ask, publicly or not, what happened to the legislative plan? What are the details? I can ask you to ask staff for detailed site-specific budgets going forward this year. That is an actionable thing that can be done that will really help transparency. And in my opinion, it'll make it a lot easier to deal with parents coming up if we don't find some funding. Ultimately, what we're talking about is accountability to the students, the teachers, the staff, the parents, and everyone in this community. And I know we can do it, and I know you can do it, and I'm happy to try to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lippert. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Okay, seeing no one then, we'll move on to the superintendent's updates. Business and budget update, Mr. Pinkerton.
Yeah, we have a lot for the board, as you know, if you've seen the agenda. We have a lot of budget updates tonight. So unaudited actuals, of course, very important to share how we ended the year. And then we will also be, I will also be giving a presentation after that to kind of talk about some of the things that were just addressed in public comment tonight. Our auditors, it's for Katie and her team. This is like a never-ending cycle right now. So just finished up with unaudited actuals, all the paperwork, all the financial to close the books, and then now the auditors come out, right? Go through everything. So I actually have a meeting with Katie and the auditors. They've been working the past couple of weeks, but this week in particular, they're here. And so I'll be meeting with them, with Katie, tomorrow at 10 to kind of talk about where we're at with the process, those types of things. But just so that you know, there's a lot of budget information, and again, working with the auditors as we move forward over the next week.
All right, just stepping in briefly, Ed Services update, Mrs. Yamashita.
Thank you. Good evening, board. It was a really exciting day in administrator land. The attorney Dora Dome came to train all of our administrative staff in how to hold expulsion administrative hearings. And we also got a review and reminder about how to ensure due process and student rights, how to engage appropriately with families, how to also document and do investigations well related to discipline work. I think it was a really productive day, and in our follow-up conversations, we'll be sharing some more information with the board about what's going to be changing this year with both stipulated expulsions as well as when we have panel hearings for expulsion. So more information to come, but our administrators had a great morning together. I've continued to do site visits. Back to school nights have been in full swing. Hawthorne, don't forget Pacific Beach is going to be tomorrow. We had slow highs the week before that. Also, the Common Ground Advisory Task Force, Dr. Prater and I got to meet with a select group of community members and discussed, among other things, the Mahmoud v. Taylor Supreme Court case and how it's impacted and going to impact staff and students. And Ms. Shepherd and Mr. Neff held our, monthly principal meetings last week with a variety of topics. You should have seen more details in the Friday Focus. The secondary school leaders kicked off our safe and nurturing school work with the University of Washington and began their planning around conducting learning walks or instructional rounds where groups of teachers go and collect data by circling classrooms or other learning areas about students and a goal that they're working on in the school. I've been holding goal-setting meetings with the administrators and my own Ed Services Director team. I did want to alert the community at large that the District English Learner Advisory Committee meeting is coming up on September 24th, and any interested member of the public is welcome to join us. Tony Orozco is going to be here again working with our families and parents, and this one coming up is going to be about screen time and technology. Also new this year, I hope you remember about the reading difficulties risk screener that we are required to do with all TK, K, and first grade students that enroll later on in the school year, as well as everyone at the beginning of the school year. And so that notification is going to be going out to parents later this week. And also Athletics for Achievement has kicked off the fall season with girls volleyball, boys soccer, and cross country, all getting going in full swing under the direction of Mr. Angel with support from Mr. Black and our foundation. So lots of great things starting this September.
Thank you. Item 7.03 is back to Mr. Pinkerton for the Measure C update.
Yeah, we held our Citizen Bond Oversight Committee at Monarch Grove on Monday and reviewed the final expenditures and revenues for 24-25. Kind of just slideshow review of all of the projects happening right now throughout the district. We'll be sharing that with the parent leader meeting on Thursday as well. And then finally, we walked the group around Monarch Grove, as Mr. Goosen kind of pointed out, looking at some of the construction, what's been completed thus far, next steps, those types of things with the group. So it was a great meeting to have and to hold. As you drove in today, you'll see that work has begun at Los Osos Middle School as well, these projects. So for Loams right now, phase 1 is all of the exterior of this campus, roofs, including HVAC, so heating, ventilation, air conditioning, windows, new entry feature to the campus, new front. So the office is currently in a different location, right, as this work is being done. And so that will, will kind of like we're doing at Laguna Middle School right now, they'll bounce around to different buildings as they go, as we proceed. So it's great just to see that Measure C work finally started, kicking off, and look forward to having some great improvements here at the site. They are going to really soon, I should say, for the public, going to start working on the tennis courts very soon, probably here in the next month. And then right after that, the pickleball courts, which has become very, something the community asked me about a lot, right, on both phases. So it's kind of a win-win for the tennis ball people, the tennis court people who don't like the pickleballers on their courts, and then they'll have their own courts here pretty soon, right? Of course, those are student, facilities, right, that PE department and those types of things use, but as the board knows, all of our facilities after school weekends are used by the public. It's a great thing.
I had an inquiry today about the tennis courts, so thank you for that update. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to move on. Item 8.01 is a resolution, the GAN limit calculations for 2024-25 and estimated calculations for 2025-26.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. So every year we do the GAN limit and we have you approve a resolution for it. What the GAN limit basically does is it tells the state our estimated spending limits for 25-26 and what we spent in 24-25. And if we go beyond our spending limits, we have to, on this form, say what we are going to do to borrow from the state in paper form to increase our spending limits. And if our current, like property taxes or whatever, exceeded what our GAN limit was, what we would do to reduce that. But doing our GAN limit form, we fell into neither category, so we are within our GAN limit. So that's all I have for the GAN. Yes.
Thank you. So for us, this is somewhat pro forma, but I am seeking a motion.
Can I ask a question first?
Absolutely.
As the newest member of the school board, and because there may be some people listening in who this could be a little bit confusing, I just want to clarify that my understanding is correct here. I understand it's pro forma, but we still have to approve it. So, so the state requires us to do some calculations based on a formula that they provide that will then determine what our spending limits will be on what they, to report what they were and what they will be going forward.
Correct.
And so this form is just the calculations of all of that formula basically being configured.
Yes, it's in our state software and it does all the calculations. I don't do any input. It pulls all of the information from our unaudited actuals that are uploaded into it. And then based on it takes let's see, I have it right here. It multiplies the prior year limit by the percentage change in per capita personal income and the average daily attendance. So there's two percentages programmed in there. It goes through, does the math, and then will tell us if we've exceeded or we're under or if we're within our limits.
And we're within our limits. Okay. Yes. So I'm happy to make a motion if we're ready. I'll move to approve the GAN limit calculations for 2024 and the estimated calculations for 25-26.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this? Seeing no one, then I'm seeking a second.
Second.
Okay, this is a resolution. I have a motion by Mrs. Baltodano, a second by Mr. Clausen. Mrs. Baltodano?
Yes.
Mr. Clausen?
Yes.
Mr. Banfield?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffer? And I'm a yes as well. That passes 6-0 with one absent. Item 9.01 is regards our summer experience and summer school update. Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin et al.
Good evening, board and cabinet. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and share a little bit about our district's summer school programs. We have our crew up here tonight. So we will talk to you about different summer programs this evening, right? Our summer experience program, which is serving our current TK students through 7th grade. And I have with me Anna Starkey, who is our summer secretary, as well as Karen Van Gale, who is our teacher on special assignment as part of our 3-person planning team. And then we'll talk to you this evening before passing it over to Mrs. Gould and then Mr. Neff to talk about extended school year and our high school programs. Okay, does that work? Okay, great. Yes, please. All right, well, I'm happy to report that we had another successful summer experience program this school year. And I know I come up and talk to you a little bit about this a couple times a year, but it's probably good to do a little bit of a refresher about what summer experience is. And summer experience is, again, our program that serves our current transitional kinder students through 7th graders. And it is ELOP funded. I want to make that clear, right? This is ELOP monies are funds that are dedicated for the specific purpose of extended learning before and after school and summer. So it's dedicated and targeted for that purpose. And when we designed the program about 4 or 5 years ago with community input, a lot of work went into making sure that it was following best practice, okay, that it was, and so we are proud to say that it is guided by research. It is comprehensive in the sense that it's open to everybody, that there's no cost for families at this time, that we offer both academic classes in English language arts, Spanish language arts, Spanish math, and mathematics, and it's in addition to a variety of enrichment classes as well. And finally, it's comprehensive in that there's childcare, transportation, school meals all offered. So I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Starkey to talk a little bit about the changes that we've made in our program this year.
Yes, these are the notable changes we made for this year. This slide represents a lot of the work that we do in the fall, this time of year, doing all of our planning. One of those things that changed this year was our flexible program dates. So in years past, families have signed up for summer experience and they've had to opt in to the full 30-day program. And because of that, we've seen a lot of attendance fall after the 3rd or 4th week. So this year we designed a program that's a 4-week by 2-week program. We took our 30-day summer experience academic and enrichment program and condensed it down into 20 days, and then added an optional, what we called summer extension, which is another 10 days or 2 weeks of enrichment activities that students could opt in to at the same time. We also made some changes to our classes. I'm going to hand it over to Karin to talk about those.
I know. Yeah, so based on both parent and student feedback, there was a request for some new classes. So this year we really wanted to make an intentional effort to offer some diverse classes and offer students a novel experience. So this year we've included an aeronautical engineering class for our rising 5th through 8th graders, a debate class for our middle schoolers as well, an environmental studies STEAM class for all of our grade levels, so that's rising 1st through 8th. And then we also folded in some financial literacy curriculum into all of our math curriculum, so that's across all grade levels as well. We also paired our sports class with a new wellness class for all grade levels, and then we piloted a bridge program at Morro Bay High School, which is where students can take both an English language arts class as well as a math class and follow the high school summer school schedule, so they're getting that experience that way.
As far as our master scheduling goes, we have students, a lot of them just return year after year. And so what we wanted to do is make sure that they had the opportunity to take different classes each year. And so we came up with a kind of a year A and a year B track of classes. And so we're excited about that as well. And so when we did that, we purposely aligned some of those new classes with some local industries in our REACH study and the work that the REACH Commission has done. And as you can see, some like classes like aeronautical engineering, we had a rocketry class. I know, fingers crossed, right, the rocketry class in the summertime, but it went well. And we're excited about offering some of those classes. So again, we set these goals last year. We wanted to make sure that we refined our curriculum, we redesigned our program in terms of the 6 weeks, and diversifying our classes, and continuing to hire high quality staff. And we checked most of those boxes. The one you see there is exploring accelerated math. We still are interested in doing that. That's going to roll over to this year's goals. We want to give some students an opportunity to kind of accelerate instead of just having them work towards grade level proficiency. And our program itself, we pride ourselves in making sure that it is successful. And research shows that programs are successful that engage kids, that are open to everyone, and we're serving the students who can benefit the most, as well as making sure that they're making progress academically. And so that's how we measure our program. And so we're gonna, the rest of the presentation really just goes through each one of these different segments.
Our first metric for success is engagement, and this slide is showing us our enrollment overall. So you can see on the left, that's our total student population we had. In our grades 1 through 4, those students attend summer experience at our 3 elementary sites, which this year were Faywood, C.L. Smith, and Bishop's Peak. And then our rising 5th through 8th graders go to our 2 high schools in San Luis and Morro Bay. And then over there on the right, that's to start enrollment by home site. It gives us a good idea of our feeder schools and where these kids are coming to our program from. You can see that Pacheco was our biggest contributor this year with over 14% of our population being Pacheco kids. And then down there at the bottom, from the left to right, it's this year's enrollment numbers compared to the last 2 years. You'll see that we've grown in both enrollment each year and then also in the percentage of our students that we serve from the district. One thing that we like to tout is that if you look at our enrollment this year and you consider summer experience to be a school, then we're the biggest school in the district.
For 30 days.
For 30 days. And then again, on our metrics for success under engagement, we're scoping out a little bit and looking at the scope of the program and engagement overall. So you'll see that number again at the beginning of the 1,785 students at the beginning of the program, showing our growth over the years. And then next to that is our participants. These are kids who finished out the 4-week program. Not only this year did we end up with more students that finished the 4-week program than we had last year that finished the 6-week program, but our retention rate went up by 9%. So it was great to see. And then next to that are continued engagement. These are the kids who stayed for that 2-week extension. So we had about 2/3 of the students who finished the 4 weeks stay with us for the additional 2. And then the DLI enrollment number, this is something that we look at every year just to measure and make sure we're capturing those kids. Our program offers DLI language arts and math to our rising first and second graders. Last year, about 16% of our first and second grade population took DLI classes. We were at 16% again this year, so we're staying steady there.
Another way that we measure engagement is just survey our stakeholders. And so we do that. We survey our families, we survey the students, we survey staff. And what we're looking at here are 4 questions and how students responded to those 4 questions. And the percentages in the middle of the, what is that, a circle graph, will show you that they responded favorably. That percentage responded favorably to these questions. And they are, how do you feel about your classes? 81% liked all or most of them. Do you think you will come to summer experience next year? 72%. I learned new things this summer, 80%. And my classes were fun and interesting, nearly 90% of our students. I'm probably most proud of this. If you were to tell me 4 or 5 years ago when we were developing the program that this would be the metric, like most of our students love coming to summer school and giving up 20 to 30 days of their summer as opposed to sleeping in and doing all the other fun stuff this summer. That's wild to me. So I'm very proud of this statistic, and it's been consistent over the last few years. This is a question we kind of consolidated, and you can see it's from both students and parents' responses, is that I met new people and made new friends. This is actually kind of a hidden objective of ours. The way we structure our program is that we have 3 elementary schools going and attending one school site. And our comprehensive high schools are for the whole city of Morro Bay or in the coast, and then in SLO. And you can see the percentages there of students who feel they're making connections with others. And one little side quick story is that I love it. One time I came across this students and I was talking about summer experience, and they were so excited to go to summer school to see the friends that they made last year that they haven't seen in a year. That was really kind of neat to hear. So it's nice to know students are making those positive connections, and I'm sure they're seeing that. Probably not having the honeymoon period at the middle school that they typically have had in the past, but I think that could be a good thing. I'm talking about this one too. All right. This is, again, our summer extension program. This is our 2-week or 10-day program. And you can see that we had 926 students participating in that 10-day program. And we had kind of started out not quite sure how to plan this program, but we ended up having a variety of different kind of nuances at each of our sites. We did partner with SLO Parks and Rec and a couple of our elementaries in the city, and we ended up developing a lot of our own curriculum for this by tapping the shoulders of people and our own teachers in our school district to develop some cool curriculum for these 10 days. And the parent feedback was really positive. And again, like Anna mentioned, we had 86% of our students who started summer extension actually finished the program. And that's one of those metrics that is good to note, because in years past, we were seeing that attrition at the end of our 6-week program that was just kind of all consistent with the same classes. We saw a lot of drop off, and we didn't see that this year.
The next metric we're looking at is our opportunities for all. So this is where we look at the groups of students that we're serving and the subgroups. So you can see here that 60% of our summer experience students attend Title I schools during the school year, which is up over the district overall. It's great to see that. And then if you look to the DLI snapshot, what this is showing us is the total population of our 2 DLI schools that attended summer experience. So both really high, 58 at Baywood and 57% of Pacheco students came. And then down at the bottom, you can see our comprehensive services. We wouldn't be here without our other district departments like food services and transportation. The numbers for those 2 departments are shared for our K through 12 programs. And then our child care is offered to our elementary students. And then I love seeing how many books are checked out by those elementary students in the first few weeks as well, 4 weeks as well. And if you do want more information on statistics on the subgroups, there is a link on this slide for you to check out.
Okay. Staffing, we have as one of our metric for success under academics, because really those classes cannot run without quality staff. So as you can see here from our staffing timeline, staffing is a year-long process. We really start like right now. So in the early fall, we start developing our promotional materials. Last year, we developed a staff handbook for all of our staff. This is when we're getting staff flyers ready. And then in the fall, we begin our outreach process. So that's really identifying our outside partner agencies, like Children's Creative Project, Slow Symphony, Parks and Recreation. And then we begin our recruitment phase. So that's when we're preparing for interviews, we're sending out our survey, and then the interview process starts in early fall. So this year we held 159 interviews over the course of 8 weeks. Now, of those 159 interviews, those are new staff to our program, or they're staff that are wanting to transition into a different role, like, for example, maybe a certificated teacher wants to take on an administrative role. So we don't hold interviews for rehires for returning staff. So then mid to late spring, that's when we're doing our placements. We're working really closely with HR, we're with that onboarding process, getting those PARs done, and then it's a lot of communication. Offer letters are going out, we're getting that confirmation, and then we go into our training where we are, we offer 2 trainings in the spring so that staff, our potential staff and our oncoming staff can have access to our curriculum digitally and know all job roles and expectations of our program. So here you can see the staffing snapshot. So this is an overview of our staff from this past year. So we hired a total of 187 staff this year. So this number is a little bit lower than last year because our program structure changed. So last year we had our 6-week program with 2 3-week sessions. This year we had our 6-week program with a 4-week traditional summer experience program with our 2-week camp extension. We had less enrollment during those 2 weeks, and we had less classes, so we didn't need as many staff, and we also partnered with Parks and Rec, so that took some of that staff, that staffing need from us. You can also notice how this is broken down. We have certificated staff, we have classified partner agencies, and our high school student aides. You'll notice that classified is a higher number, right? A lot of our classes are activity-led classes, so they don't necessarily require a teacher certification to teach. So that's why we have a higher number of those classified staff. You can also note that 67% of the staff that we hired are current San Luis Coastal employees. 33% are non-San Luis Coastal employees, and 52% of the staff that we hired are staff that has previously worked for us.
This is me. So this, again, on the theme of academics, you can see that this is a breakdown of the students that are enrolled in academic classes. This gives you an idea of how many students are actually participating in our academic classes. We have a little bit of a challenge each year in keeping students in the academic classes. I think it's a byproduct of some of our enrichment classes are really popular, really fun, and a lot of the families and the students want to not take the academic classes, even though we try to make those hands-on as well. There's a little bit of that, hey, can we opt my child out of this so that they can take these other classes? So that's a little side note that we do struggle with. We really want to kind of support the value of our English language arts and math classes. Anything else on that one?
Just that this enrollment is based on day one of our program. So these numbers towards the end of our 4 weeks may be a little bit different, and that students can be enrolled in both those math and English language arts classes. But we do offer a 3-period day. So regardless of if they're in 2 academic classes, they will still get that enrichment opportunity. Okay, so another way that we look at success is taking a look at our academic growth. So we offer pre and post tests for our academic classes. So these are developed and for our math and ELA, Spanish language arts, and our DLI math classes as well. And so here you can see with these graphs, this is the percentage of students who showed growth from their pre to their post tests in both English language arts and math. So overall for our English language arts, you saw 75% of students showed growth. For math, 90% of our students showed growth from their pre to their post exams. We also note the percent average test score gain there. And then we also take a look at proficiency. So we're looking at our students scoring 75% or higher on these tests. So at the start of our 4-week program, of our academic students, 17% scored proficient on our pre-assessments. At the end of our 4-week program, 51% of our students scored proficient on the post-tests. So in a very short amount of time, even just 20 days, we're seeing growth. So we're pretty pleased to see that.
We were curious how this was going to pan out, though, because we went from that 60-day program, I'm sorry, 6-week, 30-day program offering academics down to 20 days. And so we weren't sure what kind of academic growth we were going to see. Research does show that the longer and more kind of concentrated amount of time you can provide students, which makes sense, right? Stands to reason, the more they're going to grow. We did see growth. We would love to see that 51% higher, but I think, you know, it's hard to stick with your regular program, and you can do that, but if you don't have kids in the seats, it doesn't really matter. So we really opted to kind of refine our program, keep student attendance high, and do as best we can with, you know, the time that we have them in those 20 days. So looking forward to next year, talking a little bit about the curriculum. We want to really develop and flesh out that B year track. We want to refine some of that middle school math and accelerated math offerings we talked about. Just reevaluate that program design and see if there's any tweaks we want to make to it. And then again, the big piece is hiring quality staff. That's always our challenge. You know, we try to promote, recruit from within Cal Poly. We work with different agencies. We really want to make sure we're attracting and retaining the best people from one year to the next. And then another piece is just that outreach. We want to make sure that we're serving the students who can benefit the most first. And we do have that registration process that does kind of prioritize or allow them to register first and sign up. And so we just want to better communicate with our sites to make sure that, you know, we're supporting them and making sure that we're removing any barriers for our families to sign up for summer experience. So that's our presentation. I want to thank you all for continuing to support summer experience, and, you know, also to all the district departments. This is really a team effort, right? BG&T, Big Lift, IS&T, HR. We all have to come together to make this happen for our kids, and we're really proud to do the work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clausen.
Are we gonna, do you want us to keep going through the presentation? You want to pause? Yes.
Yeah.
So is there any questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, you're coming
You
up
can,
for ESL?
I can hold my question.
ESY?
Sorry? Did you want to ask
Okay,
questions or do ESY? We can move on to ESY.
Does anyone have questions regarding the first portion of this presentation? Mrs.
Yes.
Baltadano.
Thank you. Great presentation and really an impressive program that is just so truncated and like concentrated. So I appreciate that. And the data is really, really good. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the student survey results. I mean, I'm understanding the results, but I think that you had 120 responses.
Yeah.
And I think you had 1,785
Yes.
participants. So I'm curious, are students completing the surveys in class before the program ends, or is that something we can do?
I love that. I love the question. This is a very astute observation, by the way. So yes, so we surveyed all students, but we struggle. So we don't really have that data electronically. We did paper pencil survey. So with the bandwidth, we're not going to, so we basically randomly selected a sample size of surveys, calculated those. So as predicting that that's going to be representative of the larger pool of students.
So it was
yes.
a sampling and then you
It's a sampling, yeah.
extrapolated. So, okay. I'm not a statistician, so I don't know how accurate that is, but is it possible to do it electronically so that every student can take the survey before summer school ends?
So that's what we struggled with. I don't believe, we worked with IS&T a couple of years back, and that was a real challenge, especially for some of our younger learners. We wanted to make sure we captured their opinions, and so, yeah, that was part of it. So do we have any insight? We have it for the upper grades, it's a little different.
One of the issues that we run into is the logistics of Chromebooks and having those available, all of these students. We have to have a system where we make sure they're taking them once and not twice. So we've looked at it a few ways. It's probably more possible at that higher grade level, but we don't have Chromebooks in every class.
That makes sense, and I appreciate the logistics, and so perhaps the sampling is the best option. So, and the results are good, so that's good. And then my next question is just maybe something for next year to think about, is the DLI snapshot. 58% of students at Baywood and 57% of students at Pacheco attended, which is great. I'm just curious, which 50%? I'm familiar with Pacheco because my kids went there, and so I'm just curious. It's a very mixed student population, so that's just something to think about.
You know, as an aside, and it's not like we want to be transparent, one of the things that we did see was a bit of a decrease in how the percentage of significant subgroups that we served. We served fewer by percentage of socioeconomically disadvantaged students this year. And so we were just curious about that and weren't sure if it was, you know, why that was. That's why one of our goals, you noticed, was doing outreach to those schools and making sure that we're identifying and removing any barriers for those families who we want to see sign up in that kind of early bird sign up period.
I think that's a very important goal and data worth digging into because you know, we want to provide the opportunities. We want to make sure that the students who really need it are getting it.
It's been our priority in years past, but we just want to, again, continue to make it so.
Thank you. Mr. Clausen, followed by Mr. Banfield, followed by Mr. Unger.
Well, so the growth and evolution of this program just continues to impress me every time you present. And first of all, just wanted to say that what you've done over the recent years is just really, really impressive with our summer program, and the engagement and the enrollment numbers, I think, support that. So it's just really exciting to see the results every year. My question is, you guys have played with the format a reasonable amount, right? You've done 3 and 3, you've tried 6.
Every year.
You have 4 and 2. Well, so it sounds like the 4 and 2 might stick, or what's your opinion on future structures?
I think so. Every year, I think we've made major changes, trying to find, listen to that feedback and try to refine. And I think the 4 and 2 might stick. I want to just evaluate what that 10 days looks like. I want to really make sure that it still needs, We want it to be fun, but this is a learning-based program, you know, as I tell the staff every year, and we want it to remain that way. So.
I just wanted to say I'm particularly impressed by your metrics for success with your academics. I think this is just great stuff. And I love seeing that you found increases in student, in proficiency. It certainly argues for the notion of summer learning loss and how can we prevent summer learning loss. And it will be interesting to see whether when the students get back to, come back to school in August, whether it sticks, and I'm sure it will. I think this is great stuff.
I can speak to that real quick. One of the things that we did in years past was we had for our English language arts, we actually used our spring end of school year data and tracked those students who participated in summer experience and then measured them against the cohort of non-attenders, attendees, in the beginning of the year. FastBridge data, right, to see how they compared. And we always showed growth, and that's what I've reported on in years past. This year, we've changed our metrics. We don't have that FastBridge assessment anymore, so this year will be our kind of baseline year, but I'm going to look to report on that next year at this time. I think that'll be important.
Based on
answer that question you mentioned, yeah.
It sounds like having the ability to throw stuff into Parsec will help help the analysis that we'll be looking at in years future. And I just wanted to say, I have a strong memory of being forced by my father to go to summer school in high school.
It's a punishment.
It felt like a punishment. And I kicked and screamed, and I went and learned how to type again. But it was certainly not this, and certainly not something that was fun or that I looked forward to. And I love to see that the students are enjoying themselves. Sure. And I, this is a great way to spend summer, So congratulations to you guys.
Thank you.
Well, I think Chris touched on the very thing that I was going to ask, and that is, we have a retention. We hope that they retain their learning, but is there a tool then that measures the attendance? I think you said that, but I didn't quite get it. Is there a tool that measures, how can I say this? It seemed to me that at the beginning of the school year in August, there was some sort of tool that measured where students were. Is that happen?
So typically we do beginning of the year assessments in our schools.
Yes, the beginning of the year.
Right.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So they still do that.
Yeah. So that's what I spoke to just a little bit earlier. We were able to measure how students did it if we had the same assessment at the end of the school year, right?
Right.
And we assessed all students. We assessed them again at the beginning of the school year. What we did was we tracked those students who participated in summer experience and see how they did on that as growth from end of year to beginning of year. Does that make sense? And so we compared the kids that did participate in summer experience to those that didn't. We can't do that this year, but we should be able to do it next. And that kind of speaks to the retention piece of how much did they learn in the summer and are they set up for success in the future year.
So last year you did it.
Yes, correct. Last summer.
And what did it show that the attenders
outperformed
at now we're talking about the fall assessment.
Correct. And there's a way to do that. There was a way to do that in FastBridge to make that comparison. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. We'll
Thank
move
you all.
on to the second portion of this item. Mrs. Gould and Mr. Neff.
Hello, we'll do the second and the third portion together. I'm Janet Gould, Director of Student Support Services, and I wanted to join in on this presentation this evening and talk a little bit about our extended school year. And do we have the presentation ready? The next, I guess I can make it go to the next slide. So we all know that our students with disabilities are general education students first, and many of our special education students participate in summer experience and our summer school programs at the high school. Additionally, we offer what is called extended school year, Approximately 15% of our students with disabilities are offered extended school year. There's one of two categories that students meet in order to be eligible for extended school year. And we take data to see if students regress on goal progress throughout the course of the school year. And that would enable them to be in extended school year. Or we also have students with just very severe disabilities, and we know that instruction over the summer is necessary. So we offered it to about 15% of our students with disabilities, and about 10% attended. We align our classes with our summer experience classes, and then we have them at the high school as well. The really exciting thing this year is 100% of our ESY teachers were all of our district special education teachers, and 100% of our paraeducators were district paraeducators, really enabling our extended school year to truly be an extension of the school year. So just excited about being able to offer this to our students as an annual experience for them every summer, our extended school year. And now Dan is going to talk about high school summer school.
Thank you, Janet. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you about our high school summer school program. So you can see it was very similar to the summer of '24. We ran a pretty similar program this last summer, and so we have both either credit recovery or grade recovery. The grade recovery piece, if you think about a student maybe gets a D in a course, that gets them high school credit to graduate, but many of our students, and we want them to want to be A through G eligible, D won't do it. They need to get a higher grade. So that's there's either credit recovery or grade recovery as an option there. Or, as you can see a little later on the presentation, we have a lot of students getting original credits. We'll be able to advance to get ahead, to open up slots in their schedule in future years to be able to take additional courses to be competitive, because it's hard to get into college these days. So looking at the courses that we offered there, courses in the core as well as health and PE, run two terms, same length. They're both 14 days. Each of them had a holiday, and each one of them have Juneteenth and then July 4th in the second term. They run that 8:30 to 10:30 and then 10:45 to 12:45. Huge shout out to our food services as well as our transportation services. So 2 meals were served each day, one right before school started and then one during the break. As well as then transportation was provided too. Also shout out to BG&T and IS&T and all the support that goes along. It is basically running another program during the summer on both high school campuses. So it's a lot. And so also along with the courses that we offer in person, Quest also offers asynchronous online courses that our students can take just like last year as well. And those are listed there. Looking at the courses that are available at each school, pretty similar offerings. You can see those in terms of math, history, English, health, and PE. About a little over 450 students participated at St. Louis High School for those courses. And then at Morro Bay High School, almost 345 students participated again. Similar arrangement of courses in math, history, English, PE, and health. And you can see a combination of either original credit or credit recovery or grade recovery. Looking at kind of the breakdown of how many students were enrolled, how did they do, you can see a very high percentage of students that started finished. Right, 97% of students completed at least one session, which again, I think about probably Mr. Unger's experience in summer school. My experience of doing summer school principal for a couple years was not this. Most kids were there, did not want to be there. I think honestly, coming from other districts, it's really cool that we have this opportunity and how it's framed and provided for students. In my experience, is far different than the traditional summer school. No one wants to go and they're being drug along to do it. We have a high number of students that participate willingly and obviously reach success in what they're doing, and that the number of credits and courses completed, and you look at the breakdown of 81% of the students this year, last year was 80, so it's a little bit higher, but close to the same. Our original credit is just phenomenal. This is not the normal pattern that in my experience that I've seen with our neighboring districts or probably many other districts. Really cool what is available to our students to allow them to get ahead and open up again. Really what that means is it's allowing them to open up their schedule in future years to take additional courses to make them more competitive, take extra opportunities and things they're interested in. I keep saying it, it's my tagline, all about opportunities for kids, right? And this provides those opportunities that normally wouldn't have. If you're an A through G student, your schedule is pretty locked up for most of high school in terms of what you have to take just to meet A through G. And that's not honestly really making you very competitive. There's a ton of kids that complete A through G when they graduate. And then you look at even our local Cal Poly, how many students apply versus how many get in. It used to be probably still pretty similar, top 5 university in decline or not accepting students. So to be competitive, to get into a competitive university, you got to do a lot. And so we provide opportunities for students that do that, that just doesn't exist other places. Super cool. I'm very proud of what we're able to do. Looking at comparative to last year, I said similar structure and format, how it's set up increases. So we had more students completing, more students earning credit, and a few more courses being earned credit in. So expanding, which is great. And then something else that was a cool addition this year, we did in last year had next gen opportunities. So those students taking, a lot of them taking geometry to get that advancement in math to open up their schedule. That continued, but something that we added. So as each year, we're developing another opportunity for our next gen students until that first cohort's getting ready to enter their senior year, right? So Ms. Badal and I, and Ms. Yamashita and our AVID team still work on developing opportunities for them. And so looking at specifically for next gen some really cool things this summer. And so having a high percentage participate in summer school and having success in what they were doing, looking at their grades they're earning and their credits they're earning. Something that we added this year for that first cohort, so that group is in their sophomore year right now, is starting to prepare them for that college experience. And one of the biggest feedback we hear from our AVID teachers and from the AVID students is that writing component, right? It is really challenging. And so that was one of the things we wanted to add. So we did this, Ms. Badal, Ms. Holly, and Mr. James helped develop basically kind of a 3-day boot camp for those students right before the start of school, as well as our AVID teachers providing support. And so you can see we got about 70% of our students participate in that. That'll be something we'll look to increase each year, but this was the first time doing it, and it's right before school starting. So you think about kids kind of trying to get that last bit of summer in. Sometimes it's not super enticing to come in, but we did have, a majority participate. And so they were provided writing prompts, and then they wrote, and then were given very specific feedback so they can improve their writing skills, as well as working on some team building and organizational study skills, things like that. So pretty cool experience, a lot of positive feedback. Even had a couple formal AVID students that are in college now come back and talk to the students. So, kind of casting that vision for when they leave us and go on to bigger and better things. Another piece that we added that was great was our bilingual counselors at both high schools, making contact with all the families, all the students, and help guide them. That's a unique piece that we had, that it really provided a lot of support for our next gen students. Some things that we have coming up this year as we continue to kind of build out the program that we're really excited about. Is Ms. Badal and our AVID teachers obviously meeting with the students, and Ms. Badal going to the high schools and having lunch meetings. But something that we're really excited to be able to offer is taking them to a Fresno State football game so they can see that experience. We have some alum that are there, as well as then the next day taking to Valley Children's Hospital to see a kind of behind the scenes tour and visit. A lot of our next gen and AVID students are interested in the medical field and different facets of it. And so we have some connections there, Ms. Badal does. And so setting up for kids to see, it is one of the premier children's hospital in the state, if not in the nation. And so a pretty cool opportunity for those kids to see sort of that career side of things, along with some fun of seeing a college game and seeing what that experience is like. And so students, a lot of students haven't ever experienced it, and getting away from other universities. Cal Poly's great, it's in our backyard, but getting out to other universities and see what those experiences like can be a unique opportunity for them. And so trying to build some of the things so they see all the good things that go along with achieving and giving them those opportunities. And then we will set up like we did before with ACI, we'll set up a spring industry visit for those students as well to participate in. And so some of those are the things that we did in summer school. Any questions then for Ms.
Well, let me first go to the public. Is there anyone from the public that cares to pose a question? Okay, and then bring it back to the board. Mrs. Sheffer, followed by Mr. Clausen.
So one of these questions, well, I guess they're for both of you, for Mr. Martin and for Mr. Neff and for Ms. Gould, is I'm curious about with the changing schedule, with changing the schedule a little bit each year, do you get feedback from staff as to what their preferences are so that we can work on retaining our qualified staff and, you know, know what they, if they have a preference?
I can speak to that, yeah. So this was our first year of doing the 4 weeks. We purposely started a little bit earlier so that we could still work with our days and get them out as soon as possible so that they had a month left at the end. So some of the feedback that we did get was that it was still, they preferred the 3 weeks and that option. But I think others, so that was, more people said that. However, some appreciated the fact that we started early and left a month at the end. So we kind of just try to focus in on that additional week of compensation that they get that can afford them to upgrade their vacation or to, you know, go ahead and put it towards something useful. So, but yeah, we have surveyed, and that was one of the questions that we got feedback on.
Great, and I'll be really curious to see when you can have more comparative data, which schedule works best for the students, which they, you know, show the greater increase in achievement. So, and I just wanted to add that I very much appreciate the next gen. That's impressive, the number of kids, the number of students at the high school and next gen who complete that. I'm kind of blown away by that they stay for the whole summer.
That's cool.
So thank you.
Mr. Clausen.
You had a question on the high school data. Does the enrollment data that you shared include the Quest to Dual Enrollment program or not?
No, because the Quest one is separate. It's just they're taking classes with the Quest over the summer. So they're kids in our courses.
Do you have a read on how many kids do that on top of the ones you're reporting? Because that would obviously
not off the top of my head. I can look and see if we can get that. Sometimes getting data from Quest takes a little bit of time.
Okay.
But I can look and see what we can get from that.
Do we have any perception on like how popular or widely adopted that is and whether we have the right courses there? Maybe it's kind of like an extension of some of the dual enrollment programs in the regular year, but it seems like an alternate way to do dual enrollment without requiring a sole high teacher or more of a high teacher to be.
Sort of, it's separate. So we typically dual enrollment, we think of like our CCAP agreement. So there are courses within the school year, a lot of them taught by our own teachers. The summer is really just a summer school opportunity for anybody to take through Questa. So it's not particularly special for our students. It's just their courses that they offer. We partner with them some, but it's not quite the same as like our normal dual enrollment courses.
So those classes are ones that maybe logically map to courses offered during the regular year. But if someone wanted to take some other Questa class or any other school,
they're kind of the ones that are most the most popular choices. So we work with Questa, but they'll select which ones they're going to offer. But in my experience, they're pretty much the same ones each summer. I think they're kind of just the popular choices.
Okay.
If I can add, I believe the Questa courses over the summer are asynchronous. So that means students don't have to attend and they can do the work while they travel around or work. Whereas our summer school classes, they have to attend a regularly scheduled session in a group. And so it's important that we offer both kinds of opportunities for students. At the same time, we would not want students to primarily fill their high school requirements with the Questa classes because we want them to still engage at our high school as well. So there are limits on which classes and how many classes can be earned at Questa over the summer.
Okay. And then on the next gen programs, I mean, you may have hit this, but as a newer program, how is the growth and adoption evolving in the summer piece of that?
Yeah, so what we do is, I said, we kind of, that first cohort is now sophomores. And so kind of each subsequent summer until they're entering their basically senior year is kind of developing what that experience will be for them. Initially, we have pretty much all of them do at least geometry going into their freshman year, right? As we started to initially try to, okay, well then, I'm just gonna make this up, we'll say they are gonna do world history. We started running into, well, as they get older, they they're doing different things, or their paths, their academic paths are differentiating, it gets harder to say a one size fits all model in terms of all sophomores will do this course, then all juniors will be that course. And so what we're doing more is working individually with those students, so coordinating with the AVID teachers and our next gen counselors to work individually. You as a particular next gen student may have something, a different need than say Miss Roger does, right? And so working with them on an individual basis and then building in those bridge opportunities right before to prep them. So next summer will probably be even more on applications as they get ready. So that will be some of kind of a thing for everybody, and then more individualized in the courses they'll take, but the expectation that they will take summer school courses to get ahead and open up their schedules.
So the expectation is that everyone in Next Gen does the Next Gen summer program. That's not just kind of a Next Gen option, it's everyone.
Correct. That is part of what they need to do to be a
great.
Next Gen. It allows them to be competitive, and also remember AVID is a period in their day every single year. And so by participating in summer school allows them then to be competitive, because then they have an opening again, basically, in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Just a quick question about the geometry. I may be wrong about this, but my understanding was that we wanted the students to take geometry in summer school, and actually that some of them were taking that prior to taking algebra. Is that correct?
That is,
and wasn't the idea behind that to get them into advanced math without the obstacle of algebra?
Well, it does twofold. One, ultimately, we want to open up, give them opportunities. So by taking courses in the summer, it opens up their schedule in the future years, right? Just in general, we're doing that. Then yes, with particular math, it would allow them particularly to accelerate too. And geometry is one, because all the rest of your courses, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Pre-Cal, Cal, multiple years of calc, are all very heavily algebra based. Geometry, even though traditionally you go Algebra 1, Geo, Algebra 2, you can take geometry out of sequence to some degree. And so that was another reason of why geometry was selected as a summer advancement course.
Okay, thank you very much for this presentation.
Thank you. Good night.
Item 9.02.
Ms. Roger, before we end, we should give a shout out to Governor Newsom and the legislator for ELO funding. So the ELO funding, which is specifically to give students an extra 30 days in their school year, as well as the before and after school care to make it a 9-hour day for parents. Without that funding, this presentation that Jeff just gave for kindergarten through 8th grade would not happen. Right, so it really is a great thing that the state has extended to us and to all districts universally. Be nice if they did for TK too. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's see. We're approving the unaudited year-end actual financial statements for 2024-25. Katie.
Right. Okay, there we go. Yep, he's good. He's got it. All right. So you had the board report in your packet, but I broke it down and just put in a few slides I'm going to go over real quick to highlight some different things. And maybe there were areas you might have had questions on. So the first one we're going to look at is we did estimated actuals. That was in June. We're going to look at revenue, but estimated actuals happened in June when we submitted the budget to you, and then unaudited actuals is where everything actually landed for the year. And so when we look at our property taxes and LCFF, I didn't want everybody to get super excited and think our property taxes came in higher. The main part of the increase was due to special education funding did come in higher. In property taxes, we get a portion from the COE that's property taxes and another portion that is state aid, because our COE is basic aid, for lack of a better term for COE. And so they pass through property taxes to us for special education. So they increased property taxes and state aid went down. It's the same dollar amount, it just changed how it came in, so it made it look like our property taxes were higher. Federal revenue looks like it declined. It didn't decline. Federal revenues came in where we expected. We didn't have any money withheld from the federal government. It's just we have deferred revenue, and I'll break that down on another slide coming up. And so we defer it to the next year. So we only realize the revenue we received. State revenues came in higher, and a lot of that is ELOP funding. So what happened was the first year ELOP came out, a lot of districts held on to the money, didn't know how to spend it. There was a lot of strings attached. The second year, the governor loosened up the strings, and then that's when our district partook in using the funds and other ones. Well, what the state did was we had to pay back the first year back to the state, but then they reallocated it. So in essence, we got it back again. So that was an increase for us. We saw a pretty big jump in our state revenues, and the majority of it was due to that. And local revenues, they came in pretty much where we thought. One of the biggest changes I made was we weren't accounting for in local revenue for a bus because we knew we were getting a grant. So we only had to pay, maybe the bus was 300,000, I want to say. It was an e-bus, and we paid 175 or 107, I can't remember. But we paid just a smaller portion than what the bus was worth. But when I went to set it up as a fixed asset, I needed to recognize the revenue and then the full cost of the bus, and it netted to zero, or except for our portion that we owed. But that was the big increase in local revenue, is just recognizing the grant portion of the bus we received. For the next slides, I'm going to highlight some of the expenditures and major changes in expenditures. The biggest change is with our classified salaries. We have a lot of positions that are in position control that are 6.5 hours for all of our paras, all of our district office staff, our IAs. They're all in position control. But what we also have is time cards, and we have time cards for overtime, we have time cards for summer experience, and we have time cards for any extra duty that classified needs to make. So we also do, for 10-month employees, we do vacation payouts. So those are a little bit more challenging to recognize where we may land in that. And so this year we were kind of off in certificated or in classified salaries, but we had a savings in certificated salaries. So it was just a shift of where those salaries ended at the end of the year. And benefits were only, we saw a difference, an increase of $8,000 in benefits. So we kind of had that targeted, but not so much the hourly rates. We had wanted to point out with our classified salaries, we also hired a lot more of paras this year. We did in prior years big contracts for contracted services for paras. And student services worked really hard to reduce those contracts and hire the employees directly. And so each time that they would hire somebody, it would reduce our contracts with these agencies. But this year we did end the year with 451,000 worth of contracted employees for paras. But I know they're still working to get that down, and hopefully we'll see another decrease in para contracted through agencies next year. Books and supplies, you see a big savings there, and the majority of that will be Prop 28. We keep with our Prop 28, the first year it came out, took us a while to get plans together, figure out how to spend the money, and now we are in our third year, and everybody has submitted a plan, and the money we will see, like, we're 1 year in arrears. We do this with our lottery funds, and it's just because it took us a little bit longer to get caught up. Some districts or sites, are fully spending their money in this year. Others have maybe a 2-year plan to fully expend it. But with that, at the end of the year, we unencumber a lot of POs or budget that we had set up that didn't get realized through Prop 28 and some of our multi-year grants with CTE and ELOP and lottery. With our operating expenses, it would be the same thing. We had carryover in educator effectiveness, Title II, and ELOP. You'll see our carryover balances in this slide in just a moment. And then the other major was equipment, and that was recognizing the buses that we received this year that didn't come in 23-24, but came in 24-25. Here's a breakdown of the carryovers. So what will happen at first interim is we have our general fund, and we have broken down to in restricted and unrestricted. And where you see the 8.5 million, those are restricted ending fund balances. So these are all the different programs that had carryover that will carry over into 25-26, and it will be available for use. ELOP and the Prop 28 carry about a year's, in lottery I should say, about a year's worth of fund balance. And with ELOP, we've done that strategically, knowing we weren't sure if it was going to stick around. And so we put this great program in place, and we wanted to at least have a year's worth of cushion. Always have done that with lottery. It helps when we have to do an adoption, we have that fund balance available. And educator effectiveness, this is the last year for that grant. We've carried a fund balance for the last 6 years, and it'll end this June of 26. So those are restricted fund balances. So you will see that at second interim, you'll see that money get budgeted out and hopefully spent down. And then where we saw the negative on the prior slide for federal revenue that I said we were deferring, this is 228,000. Of that, 170,000 is federal revenue deferred to next year. There's a little bit of state money in this that's in the other deferred that is also, we're deferring it to spend it in 25-26. So what that will look like at first interim is you'll see an increase in those, an increase in revenue, and that will account for the deferred revenue. Our transfer in and out, what this line is we will have, sometimes we will transfer money out of our general fund to maybe Fund 40 for other capitalized projects, and vice versa. We will take money from either Fund 20, Fund 40, and we'll put it into the general fund, which is typically interest, and that is what we did here. We took interest and moved it from the funds that generated interest, mainly Fund 20, and then there was an unused balance for projects that we had moved from the general fund to Fund 40. We moved that unused balance back into the general fund since the projects for district-wide fencing and another capital project that we had allocated were completed, and there was a little bit of a balance, so we moved it back to the general fund. And this slide is really hard to read, but in your packet, you'd be able to see it. And this is a summary of all of our funds. Outside of the general fund, we have Fund 11, which is adult ed. They're currently sitting with a fund balance of $905,000. The program is doing really great and self-sustaining. Food service is another one that's doing really well. They have 1.6 million in their fund balance and continue to generate, not generate, but get reimbursed for all the meals that they're producing and providing really great food for our students. And we have our Fund 20, which is our post-retiree benefits, and that we earn interest on, and we transfer the interest out into the general fund. Building fund, that's going to be Measure C. Our Fund 25 is our capital facilities. That's all of our residential and residential fees for new development and commercial. And so we brought in 2.3 million. With those funds, we can only use them on sites that are growing. So currently Slow High, Ryan has a plan to use them there because that site is showing growth. Fund 35 is a pass-through when we get a reimbursement. Kelly will, over at BG&T with the bond, she will apply for state grants to after we have invested money through our bonds, she will apply for reimbursement for portions of that grant. It funnels through Fund 35. Fund 40, I just explained we had 211,000 left. We've moved that back to the general fund. Fund 51 is where we recognize our bond and record it for the county auditor's office. And Fund 73 is the trust. So that is a breakdown of our unaudited actuals. I went kind of fast. Is there any questions?
Let's go to the public. Is there anyone from the public that would like to ask a question on this item? Seeing no one, then back to the board. Mrs. Sheffer.
I just have one question. On the increase in the paraprofessionals, is that primarily due to an increase in our special education students or special education students requiring additional one-on-one, or what area primarily was that?
It would be a combination. It's as we, yes, students that are requiring either one-on-one or more paras in the classroom. And also as we, at the beginning of the year, we have so many para positions that we've budgeted for. And historically, in the last few years, we haven't been able to fill them. So we have used contract agencies for those funds or for those positions. And so as we've been able to hire from those agencies and make them our employees, that would be, that's where you would see the increase in classified salaries and a decrease in our other operating expenses. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
I don't, Mrs. Baltadon.
Yes, I wanted to just get clarification, and then I wanted clarification on, sorry, fund, is it, I have written over it, 73, the foundation private. So I had a question about what that was referring to. I remember reading it. I just found the answer, but can you just explain it in case anyone else? I think it could be easily confused with our education foundation, and so I just want that to be clear.
It's for Morro Bay. It was an endowment made to Morro Bay High for scholarships.
Yeah, so totally different.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no additional questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, we're seeking an approval. Okay, then I guess I am looking for a motion to approve the unaudited year-end actuals for 24-25.
I move approval of item 9.02, unaudited year-end actual financial statement for 2024-25.
I'll second it.
So I have a motion by Mr. Unger, second by Mr. Banfield. Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Banfield?
Yes.
Mrs. Baltadano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffer? Mr. Clausen?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So that passes 6-0 with one absent.
Thank you.
Item 9.03 is the budget update. Mr. Pinkerton.
Yeah. Okay. I'm kind of big, you know, to get fit in the screen. It's a little tough. All right, tonight, I actually had Katie not talk about reserves since I was going to talk about it in my presentation. So kind of held off on that aspect, so we'll go over it now so we wouldn't have to repeat each other. So tonight is, again, in the effort of transparency. A lot of what I'm going to talk about tonight is what I already talked about in August, but again, it bears repeating as we go through this process. Because we have unaudited actuals, we have that one of those marks that we discussed early on that we need to see where we finish the year at, right? Very important to know that. And then kind of next steps for us as well. I'm going to talk about a little bit about the budget process, budget committee, fiscal sustainability task force, and then as well as a couple of items that Mr. Lipper brought up in terms of next steps, in terms of trying to find those revenue sources. So hopefully I'll provide a little bit of clarity in that way, right? So first of all, I think it's important for people to know, why do we have a structural deficit? right? So I'm going to go over those again as I did in August, but I think, again, it bears repeating, right? Why are we in this budgetary situation that we're currently in when we're looking at having to make reductions again this year after last year's reductions, which of course are horrible because all of our programs are great. All the things we do are good for kids, right? And we would love to keep them going. So the first one, of course, is the loss of unitary tax revenue. So as you'll see from 2016-17 to 24-25, the district unitary taxes dropped from 10,600,000 down to 3,700,000. Almost a $7 million drop in revenue during that time period. Now, property taxes have risen and have helped during that same time period to lessen the impact of that, as well as we received SB 1090 funds. So these were one-time funds that were set up to, one, fund our foundation, $10 million, and then the other funding mechanism kind of was spread out over the course of 7 years, which was, last year, or actually this year, $4.6 million, right, in terms of a funding mechanism. So that ends now. So that 4.6 that we've counted on for our revenues and, in terms of was included in last year's unaudited actuals is gone after this year. So yet the plant still remains open. So I'll talk a little bit about that later. But again, I think it's important to understand that this is a big reason why we're faced with it. If those payments continued, if we got unitary tax, we wouldn't be talking about reductions this year. It would be a very different story. So again, number two, COVID-related funding. And so the state economy actually has done well post-COVID. So not only did we receive state and federal funding for COVID, one-time dollars, to help students post-pandemic get back on track, social emotional health, right? Academic interventions. We hired 173 employees to do that work over that time period using those one-time funds. Where you're going to see in the middle, or in a little bit, that we also had personnel costs have increased, retirement costs have increased, on top of adding those positions to our school district, right? So the board did make reductions last year, significant, which is great, and put us in a much better spot for this fiscal year, for 25-26, right, to ensure that we meet our reserve levels. But then for the following year, when we lose that 4.6 million, that's when things will be tough again, right? Where we're gonna have to make decisions about where we're at. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about that. The third one is really the addition of transitional kindergarten, right? So the district added an additional grade level. We hoped at the time when this first started that there would be state funding, that they would come around kind of like they do with ELOPE, right, where all school districts in the state of California receive those funds. We hope the same would happen for transitional kindergarten. Again, our lobbyist efforts, as Mr. Lippert described, were to kind of push for those for that same funding mechanism. What we found is really kind of hands off with the state legislature, and when Dr. Prater would go and visit the governor, state legislator and our legislators, there really wasn't a desire to help our school district as well as other basic aid school districts in that effort. We tried to team up with small schools as well, use SF squared, right, to try to push for these things. Fortunately for us, Don Addis actually put forward a bill to make this happen for us. So kudos to Ms. Addis for doing that, right. But once in the assembly, it really didn't make it out of the budgetary process. So that is something that I'll talk a little bit about later in terms of moving forward. But again, we have added transitional kindergarten throughout our school district. Now I will say kudos to our transitional kindergarten teachers who were willing to kind of change the model to help us not reduce costs, but contain costs. Knowing that this year we were adding the final stage of our TK students, right? So adding enrollment to that. And so the way we have it now, it's kind of an AM, PM with ELOPE funding. We're able to still extend the day for all parents, which is great. So they still get that all day care. But it was still adding a grade level to our school district without any source of revenue that goes along with it, right? So the fourth one is again something that we often hear from our employee groups at board meetings about how hard it is to live in our area, the amount they are paid, right? How they can try to survive and pay for rent and bills and all those types of things. So it was Governor Brown, I think, right, back in the PERS STRS transition, where that year they basically shifted the funding source to school districts. So basically, STRS and PERS, which is both the classified and certificated retirement systems, were in trouble. They weren't generating enough revenue to basically meet their long-term needs, right, to keep the funds stable for retirement systems. So to do that, they raised the amount that employees paid by just a little bit, by 1% or 2%. They did the same for both classified and certificated. The state does pay for a portion of certificated, but then they really put the onus on school districts. So we saw our rates that we were putting towards employees rise from, again, 8.3% in 2016 all the way up, or 14-15, all the way up to 19.1%. And then PERS has risen from 11.7% to 27.5% for employees. So the same employees on the classified side are costing 16% more. And employees don't see that in their check, right? They don't realize this. It doesn't help them pay their bills or utilities or do any of those other things. It's going to help them when they retire, that there's funds available to pay for their retirement, right? So it was important for them to do that. But again, that whole onus was put on school districts to have to, hey, deal with it. Build this into your budget.
So, Mr. Pinkerton, does that then mean equate to 27 cents for every dollar that an employee earns, the district is paying in retirement benefits?
Yes.
That's for classified employees?
Yes.
For PERS?
Yep. On top of that, we also pay for Social Security. So it's roughly 34%. So 34 cents for every dollar. And that doesn't count health benefits or all the other benefits that tie into it as well, right?
Wow.
So again, when you start to see, and anyone, you can go on Transparent California right now, and you can see what salaries are, and you can see what benefits costs are, and employee salaries. It's all public knowledge, right? It's all out there, transparent for people to see. And so, it's stark when you see the actual benefits cost, like for especially our classified employees who take health benefits. A lot of times their benefits costs are the same as what they make. It jumps up that high, right? So, and again, a great thing, it's great, right, for the employees long term. But when we're talking about negotiations and they don't consider that, right? They don't consider those costs that are associated with that when we're talking at the table and negotiating contracts, those types of things.
Yeah, those are deferred benefits.
Right.
They can't take those to the grocery store.
Yeah. Now, again, it has been the board's desire, goal. This board has tried to maintain
Mrs.
salaries.
Baltazano?
Okay, go ahead.
Just before we move from that point too much, I just want to be clear that this is just an economic reality. The state sets these percentages that we have to pay, and I just want to be clear that, at least from my perspective, I'm not complaining about having to pay towards our teachers' benefits and all of our staff. It's just an economic reality that we have to address. I mean, that we have to work within that context. So I just want
and we have no choice.
Right. It's built into the system.
And in fact, all school districts in California,
Yeah,
this is the reality,
we're
right? Not just
alone
us,
in this.
all,
Yeah.
Absolutely. So again, the next part, so we have given 29% on salary increases during that same time period. I went back, kind of looked and see, and we've had a couple lean years, 2010, 11, when we kind of faced these same budget issues back then, and we had a budget committee and recommendations to the board, all those things, right? So it's been a little while. It's been about 15 years since we've had to go through this process, and for board members that have been here for a long time, it's cycles, right? It's kind of a roller coaster in terms of in terms of that, budgets and budget cycles and how districts are affected. But again, we have tried to give our employees raises. We have tried to maintain our status as being one of the best paying school districts in the county, right? To attract the best people to our school, to our schools, and to our district. So it's again, we don't, just like Ms. It's great. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm glad that we have, and it's a great thing, and we have great employees, and it's wonderful, but it's an economic reality of where we're at today, right, in terms of cost of personnel. The district did negotiate a 1% ongoing salary increase last year, right, with additional compensation for special education teachers. So an extra 5% for each of those special education teachers, right, knowing that their job is tough and all that they have to, extra things that they have to do, requirements from the state, those types of things, right, built in, so it's great. Our BCLAD teachers, right, these are our teachers that are using their bilingualism, right, in the classroom with students all the way, TK all the way to 12. So they also received an extra stipend that goes along with their job, and again, other compensation items with stipends and things like that, right? But just so the board knows and for the public to know, every time we increase 1%, it's $1 million, right? Between salary and those benefits that we've talked about. Which then adds to our structural deficit, right? So we are currently about to enter into negotiations again with all 3 of our unions, right? So it's going to be a tough year in negotiations, with kind of what we're looking at and moving forward. So this isn't new to the board, right? This is something we've been talking about, and I will tell you that Dr. Prater we have been, as Mr. again talked about earlier, have been working with some lobbyists, trying to see if there's some funding mechanism that we could get so that we wouldn't have to move forward with reductions this year. One of the things that we were hopeful of is kind of some one-time dollars, cap and trade, that again, Ms. Addis had supported to move forward. And unfortunately, that money did not come to fruition. So the legislator, if you read today, they adjourned today. Those dollars are not in there. So that it was, again, hopeful, right, that we could potentially get that, which would at least give us another year to continue to advocate for our either unitary tax, SB 1090 renewal, or TK funding, those types of things. But unfortunately, that did not come to fruition. So here I am tonight, right, presenting again this budget information. So the board knew, the board met, over the summertime. You have your kind of direction. So in that meeting, as you recall, and you approved, your direction for this year for the superintendent, for Dr. Prater, is, hey, we need to cure the structural deficit for the 26-27 school year, right? So that's work that needs to be done this year to ensure that the 26-27, when we present the budget to you in June, that we have cured the structural deficit for that year, right? On top of that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about reserves, the second kind of longer term goal over the next 5 years would be to build back up our unrestricted reserves. Okay, you saw Katie talk about today, and she listed all the restricted reserve levels. ELO funding, MA, all those instructional materials budgets, all those things, right? Well, those are not unrestricted revenues. Okay, those things all have, again, restrictions for how they're used. So building that unrestricted portion up is really important. And I turned my ringer off and it's still going off. You can turn my phone off, Ms. Yamashita, please. So again, this slide kind of outlines that. So this is post unaudited actuals now. So our starting reserve balance, 24-25, was 22 million. We overspent by over $6 million last year, right? So 24-25. That leaves us with an overall reserve balance of about 10.79%. So the board, hey, board reserves, over 10%, great, fantastic. The problem is that a lot of that is restricted reserves, right? So in terms of our unrestricted fund balance and reserve level, it's at 4.98 at the end of 24-25 unaudited actuals, or about $7,300,000. Okay? And that's with the total expenditures of 146 million. So we already know our expenditures are dropping next year. So that then makes to meeting the 3% easier, right? Because that's a key. But again, it doesn't mean that you have more reserves. It just means that it's easier to meet that 3% level. So in order for our school district to not be qualified or negative, Katie has to show that we're going to meet our 3% reserve for 3 years. Okay? So not just next year, but for the following 2 years as well, right? So that is something that, again, to meet those requirements, we have to make reductions this year. And what do those reductions currently look like? They look like the amount that our SB 1090 funding is. So the 4.6 million, okay? That said, there's another thing that's happening, right? And that is, and again, I actually attached the letter that we received from Dr. Brescia. I just want to point that out. Anybody can click on it, take a look at it, right? So we're not making this up. I'm not, this is real in terms of it's an issue for us and something we have to solve because we do not want to have a qualified budget. It can't happen as far as I'm concerned, right? We have to make the reductions that we need to make to ensure that we meet our minimum reserve levels, right? Whether, again, building that unrestricted reserve, we can do that over a few years, right? That does not necessarily have to happen in 1 year, but we have to meet our 3% reserves. So you'll see in the letter there, Dr. Brescia, it talked about, again, our LCAP, fine, great, look good, meeting all the requirements, spending levels, fantastic, right? But again, concerned about our budget, right, long term, that we're building in these reductions. He even at one point, says, hey, the board should pass a resolution. Again, for me, you've already made it a board priority. You've made it a 5-year priority already. So passing a resolution on top of that is unnecessary as far as I'm concerned. But again, you can read the letter. The public can read the letter, right? This is where we're at right now, unfortunately. So next steps, right? So kind of the timeline part of what we're doing. So HR, Human Resources, is kind of finalizing all positions, openings, putting everything in position control. I am taking all of that data, in particular our personnel data, and I'm putting it into a master spreadsheet, right, of every single department, every single school site, what athletics costs, what music costs, what TK costs, what kindergarten aides cost, what EL support staff costs. So I am breaking all of that down. And the first step, which I'm setting up right now, is to get a meeting with our union representatives, so members of CSEA, SEIU, SLCTA, as well as our MEC, our principal groups, some district office staff, to just, hey, I'm going to share this spreadsheet with everybody. What am I missing? What else should we have up here? What should we be looking at? What should the board consider as we kind of go through this process, right? So that is what I'm putting together right now. And we just set the meeting up for September to kind of meet with that group and begin that conversation of, what programs are there? What are we looking at to move forward, right? Once we have that information together, then Dr. Prater is putting together a fiscal sustainability task force. So this group will include some of those same people that I've discussed, but it will also include community members and parents. So he will expand that group, right? And looking at that information and then providing Dr. Prater with kind of their recommendation, kind of a plan for potential budget reductions that then he will have to take and bring forward to the school board. Right? Our goal would be to take that probably to you in November, let you look at it, see what it's like, what the different information sources are. I will share in the meantime all the spreadsheet, all the information that I'm sharing with my first budget group with everyone. Right? It's again, it's all transparent, California. It's all available. Anybody can see the information, right? In terms of moving forward. So I will share that with the group. Again, Dr. Prater will provide more information about that group and who to invite, who to tie in. I know we've talked about adding like some of our county fiscal staff, just kind of a broad group, right, that knows schools, knows education, knows programs, to kind of tie into that process. So I talked a little, so again, another key data point now for us is going to be the end of November, where we'll actually receive our property tax revenues. I am hopeful that we're not going to see another dip in our unitary tax, that they will reflect kind of the property values that have come up. We've had, again, Mr. Lippert share some good information for us to know in terms of those property unitary values, that it looks like they're done dropping. I'm hoping that's the case, but we'll know for sure in November when we receive that kind of the real estimate of our property values. Now, if those are higher than anticipated, then we won't need to necessarily cut the 4.6 million. If they're $1 million, $2 million more, then maybe our reductions are only 2.6 million to balance the budget, right? Fantastic. I'm super hopeful that that's the case. Because we have seen, or should have seen, 5-6% increases over the past few years, but because of the drop in unitary tax, it's been more 3.5-4%, right? In terms of overall property tax growth. So if that isn't happening anymore, they're still building homes in San Luis. Prices are still going up, right? Sales are off, not as much in terms of transition, but the county's still catching up to their property taxes in the cities, right? In terms of charging people property taxes and bringing those dollars in. So I'm hopeful in November that that's a better number than what we have projected, right? And then we'll be in a better place, the board will be in a better place and not have to make as many reductions as we might have anticipated, right? December meeting will then finally be the first interim budget, where Katie and I will have gone through and really cleaned up personnel costs, right, for certificated classified benefits. Because again, that's 85 to 86% of our budget. Making sure those are correct, and it's what I've been working on for the past month with them. We have several meetings the next couple of weeks to ensure that it's nails, right? It's right. This is exactly what it should be. And again, we'll bring that to you for interim. That will reflect the new property tax values. And then along with that meeting would really be where Dr. Prater is going to ask the board to make reductions. Because we are going to need the months of January and February, if there are staff reductions, for Dr. Puccia's office to be able to put those into place, right? Because we have a March 15th deadline. Now, we are going to continue to advocate, my last slide, and then we'll go to questions. We are going to continue to advocate for TK funding, right? So, again, our state assembly person, Don Addis, fantastic, willing to bring that forward again for us. We're looking at potentially looking at some other legislators that have basic aid school districts within their boundaries to join in that ask again to move this bill forward to make universal TK just like universal ELO funding, right? So we are going to continue on that front to try to get that bill to move forward. At the same time, we will also continue our battle to, I would say first, try to get the continuance of SB 1090 funding, something like that, right? So unfortunately with SB 846, which kept the plant going for another 5 years, while they kept the employee compensation area, they cut out the continuation of the community impact funding. So I looked it up, I've checked it out, I shared with Dr. Prater yesterday, so we'll be talking with Mrs. Addis' office, with Mr. Laird's office, right, to get something pushed forward, hopefully, that can make some changes to 846, that then just adds the continuation of community impact funding for as long as the plan is open. So that would be one option, right, that we could move forward with. PG&E, in order for that plant to continue to run past these 5 years, is going to need another SB 846. They're going to need another bill to keep that plant moving. And so if that does, and again, they need a few years prior to that to be able to get ready to keep the plant going, right? So if that comes up at that time, then we need to be part of that bill cycle, you know, the language that's in that bill, right? If that is going to continue, so that we can again try to get some type of funding mechanism. Again, whether that's unitary tax, whether that's community funding, mitigation, you know, anything, right? Whatever works best in that scenario. You know, relying on the PUC to change the value of the plant or those types of things. I would like something more specific written into the law that just keeps, like our community mitigation funding, going during that time period, right? Know as a board that if we received either one of those two funding sources from now until June, when you do the budget, that even though we may have to lay some employees off on March 15th, we can hire them all back, right? If we were able to get one of those two sources during the time period. Now, again, I don't like being optimistic. So far, it hasn't worked out in our favor in any of these, right, as we've tried to move forward in this. So, you know, as the CBO, I'm going to tell you, we need to get our budget in line. We need to make the reductions we need to make. Hey, if we get the money, fantastic, great. You know, the board will have some choices about, you know, the things we bring back and how we move forward, right? But until those two things, either one of those two things happen, we have to ensure that our budget is not going to be qualified. So that is just, again, kind of an update of where we're at post, you know, again, in August, we talked about, first we're going to have unaudited actuals, right? Well, here we are today. So the next step is that budget committee, then the fiscal sustainability committee pulling that information together for the board, for Dr. Prater to consider, and then he will bring a recommendation to the board to move forward. We'll get our property taxes. And then finally, at first interim, we'll know exactly kind of where we're at, right? Because Katie will have to put that multi-year projection together. And whatever that cut is to ensure that we stay, have positive reserves for those 3 years, that will then dictate kind of where we're at and what we need to reduce. Okay? That's all my good news.
Thank you, Mr. Pinkerton. I understand that Mrs. Sheffer has an item of public comment.
Thank you. Mr. Lippert.
You can. That's more of a stinger. All right. Okay. My name is Ben Lippert. Thanks again. Just before I start, I want to note that I'm so happy to hear that you're going to put the cost of everything in a spreadsheet. That's amazing. I'm so excited. We want to talk about details again, right? And specifically now with respect to PG&E funding, I'm going to stress how much the details matter. I'm going to note that Mr. Pinkerton gave an answer about cap and trade that was kind of, I want to say hand waving. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. It's just, that's not a detail. That's not a detail. Cap and trade is not a detail, right? I know what he means, but I want everyone else to know what he means. And I want to make sure that whoever's telling you what their plan is has the detailed plan and you're getting it. That's all I really care about. Well, not all, but 1 month ago, Mr. Clausen, you know, talked with details about how PG&E could do the right thing, right? We talked about it in February. You felt the energy in the room. Mr. Daniels was here. You felt that energy. That was a detailed plan that could be done tomorrow, right? They could make a donation tomorrow. If they ask you a question about continued operations, reinstating unitary tax, I'll talk about that. The question is there a legal mechanism for you to give a charitable donation to the district or the foundation of $4.6 million, right? In lieu of what the SB 1090 would have been. That's it. There's a yes or no answer. Either they're able to do it or they're not. Anything beyond that is a question of will, right? Will they or won't they? I'll talk about why they should. Before I get into that, I'm just going to say real quick about why it matters to talk about reinstating the unitary tax. That is something that doesn't make sense legislatively. and I don't want you to just take my word for it. I want you to hear it from equalization. I have asked staff to talk to equalization, who unprompted, when they saw the FAQ from last month, asked to do a call with staff to clarify what unitary tax is and how to talk about it. I've made that offer. There's plenty of stuff they have to do, I understand. I'm making that offer to the board now. You don't have to listen to me about this stuff, you know? Listen to a party that has no economic or political interest in these questions and answers. I'll set it up, I'm happy to. I know there's Brown Act considerations, everything else. We're gonna make this happen. I want to lower the information gap, right? Let's lower the information gap, because when PG&E is talking to you, they're not talking about this. Again, this is what I had last year, or last time, right? $2.5 million in shareholder profits. This is what we would ask for this little tiny thing up here. $4.6 million. Do the right thing. Continued operation does not give us.
Thank you, Mr. Lippert. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to this item? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the board. Mr. Banfield, followed by Mr. Clausen.
When we were talking about our timeline, the next steps timeline, and the last bullet saying that the board will take an action on that recommendation for budget reduction. How's that information going to be presented? In other words, is there going to be just a dollar amount saying we need to reduce it by this much? Or is there going to be a recommendation of how we reduce the budget? What is it going to look like?
I think both.
Okay.
It'll be categories, it'll be portion, amounts, and tied to a rationale.
Right.
Okay, that's how I envision it being presented to the board.
Okay.
For discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Clausen.
Yes, I want to spend a minute talking about the 10% unrestricted reserve goal. So the way I interpret that is that we have $7.3 million of unrestricted reserves now, based on what you're sharing, which is 5%. By 2030, we need to be at 10%. That's probably $16 million. Am I thinking that correctly?
Yeah, depending on what our expenditures are.
So we need to add $9 million in unrestricted reserves to our reserves. 2030 is 4 fiscal years away. We've got 26, 27, 27, 28, 28, 29, 29, 30. So we're talking about balancing our budget next year, but we also are discussing adding $9 million of unrestricted reserves over the next 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that $9 million play out over the next 4 years? Are you envisioning we're balanced next year and 3 a year those following years? Are you envisioning we need to get to a net surplus this year and not to break even? Just because I think getting to a net surplus is what's required to progress towards that reserve target.
Sure.
But that's also very painful to do in the midst of layoffs and staff reductions. So I guess I have a few questions, but my specific first one is should we be thinking as a group that we need to get to $2 million surplus next fiscal year so that we can reach that 10% goal? Or should we be thinking we need to get to a net break-even budget?
So I would start with your first year annual priority, which is just curing the structural deficit, so that we're not looking at negatives throughout the time period, right? But let's get to zero at some point. And then after that, again, depending on how property tax values come in, projected values or not, then whatever surplus is above that, that's a choice the board will make, right? Are we going to put that towards our reserves, build our reserves? You know, we're going to be entering into negotiations again with our employees, so it becomes a choice of where any of those extra dollars goes, right? So again, that will be up to the board on an annual basis. And again, the 5-year too it's a goal to get there, Is it a realistic goal at this point? It's going to be tough, I would say, to get to 10% unrestricted during that 5-year time period based on what we're currently looking at. But I mean, we've had time periods where the state has given it, you know, hey, the state's great one year and they have $3 million and we get an extra, you know, one-time funding source. And so we could, again, build up our reserves that way, right, potentially through that process. But
well, can you give some context to why we should or shouldn't care about that 10% goal? I mean, I think it's important because it's going to be
huge.
A big part of the discussions over the next 4 years. So aside from 10% being a nice round number that sounds good, can you give context to why we care?
Yeah, so what the board is currently going through right now is the reason why we need a 10% unrestricted reserve. Because if we didn't have those dollars saved up over the past few years, we would have felt way more pain, right? We would have cut 10 million last year, not the 5. So I think that's the part where when you hit financial times like we're currently facing, having those reserve levels it allows us to do things a little bit slower in terms of process. It gives you the board a little bit more flexibility in terms of reductions and those types of things. So again, it's important to have like that extra savings account, those dollars there for times like we're currently facing.
So what I'm hearing you say is that next year we need to get to at least break even.
Yes.
And be in a position where if property taxes exceed expectations, we can start addressing this reserve requirement. But getting to break even as a starting point is the beginning of the discussion. Am I thinking of that correctly? Okay.
Yeah, we have to start there, right? I think that's the most important thing, is to really get that taken care of. And as the board knows, you just dealt with this. That, you know, you cut $4 million last year, close to 5. This next round will be even more difficult, right? Because we've already started to take away some of the things that we could deal with. Now it's going to run a lot deeper this next round of reductions, and so it's being able to make those reductions, get where we need to be, right? And then I think again, then the board once you're there, then you actually have choices once the dollars come in of what you add back. What does the board prioritize are the most important thing for kids, right? And for our staff and those types of things. But yeah, definitely first step is to cure that structural deficit this year.
Okay. So my next question is, there's a question that I hear regularly that I'm going to ask. I know part of the answer to, but I think it's an important thing to address publicly and make sure we're clear on. So if we need to get from 7 million in reserves to 16 million, a question I hear is, why don't you sell a couple of properties for $9 million? And then you have $9 million more dollars, and now you have 16 instead of 7. And so if we were to sell a property, or where would that money go in this context? 'Cause it's not an unrestricted reserve. Would it show up anywhere in our reserves?
So
or
you would have that sheet that Katie showed at the end that had those funds outside the general fund? The Mabel Verthaler Scholarship for Morro Bay High, the adult education, the developer fees, you would have another fund that would be basically for any dollars that we receive from the sales of Morrowell, Sunnyside per se, right? So those would have to go into a special account, and they could only be used for real estate or capital projects, right? So building something. So they can't be used for general fund. Now, I will say, the caveat to that is we could probably use like the interest to offset some of the costs that we have associated with our BG&T, maintenance, things like that are capital improvement projects that we do, right? So that could help the general fund in that way, where you kind of have the sinking fund and those, again, the interest dollars. What did we see in Fund 20? So it's about $300,000 a year, basically, currently in interest that you would receive from $9 million in the bank.
So specifically, if we sold $9 million worth of property, it would not go in our unrestricted reserves. It would also not go in our restricted reserves. It would go somewhere out of the general fund that we would never even really see in your budget report, except in another fund that Katie would point to.
Yes.
From time to time.
You are correct.
So there's no way to sell property to address this problem.
No.
Okay. Do you want to say something?
Except if you chose to lease the property. And then you could use those would become unrestricted if you lease the property, long-term lease.
The annual income from the lease would be income in our general fund that we could use, but the value of the property does not go into our unrestricted reserves, our reserves, or anything on our balance sheet. Is that true?
Correct. So if you created an arrangement with one of our properties that was a long-term lease, where you front-loaded the lease payments to the front end, and you passed the board resolution to direct those funds to the reserve in particular, you could conceivably create a 5 to 10 year plan to replenish the reserve.
Through lease payments?
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
okay.
But that's, while that sounds good, the reality of doing that is very difficult. And again, one of the reasons why the board is looking at selling the two properties is they're due for about $20 to $30 million each in renovations on the two properties, right? So, so it's, again, like, I don't want you to think, oh, hey, we should just lease the properties and we're fine. No.
The reason I'm asking it is I think there's a subset of the community that thinks selling properties can specifically solve this problem.
I agree.
And short of a complex 10-year lease approach that Dr. Prater may, there's not a simple solution to sell properties to solve this. Maybe I'm just stating something.
You are correct.
Okay.
You are correct.
But a number of people think we can solve this problem that way, and we can't. Is that a true statement?
True.
Okay. So I have another question. Am I taking too much?
No, please, go ahead.
Okay. So on the topic of PG&E, I guess I just want to retrace again our experience there around this concept of them providing a donation to the school district.
So to be really clear, we've asked them for money.
Yes.
And they said no.
Right. So retracing that, I guess I want to just make sure that we have this really clear. We've gone to them. We've asked for a donation. We have a nonprofit entity they can donate to.
Yes.
They have confirmed that they have annual budget that is available to give funds to entities like our nonprofit. We've been clear that we have flexibility on which of their fiscal years they donate in. So if they're out of money in one year, they can do it the next year and still help us. It just requires them to plan and make a decision. And so I guess my question is, have we gotten any indication from them that they are willing to make a donation? And secondly, do you know of any impediment that would stop them from being able to make one other than just a desire to donate?
Again, we have addressed this with PG&E reps and talked to them about this exact thing, and the answer has been no. They don't. They will not contribute in that way to the school district.
So a two-part question though. As far as we understand it, there's no impediment because they have budget and they have the means to make a donation, and we have a nonprofit entity they could donate to. So they could make a donation. There's nothing stopping them, correct?
That is correct.
They are choosing not to, is what you're saying.
That is correct.
And so again, I would just like to publicly, again, ask them to reconsider their choice not to support us because they can. Thanks.
Mrs. Baltodano?
Was I next?
I don't know. I'm making you next.
Okay.
You're next.
It took too long. It took too long.
Thank you for the presentation. I think it's really helpful to hear this information over and over again. I want to just draw everybody's attention, anyone who's watching. I think it was slide 10 that has the link to the letter from the County Office of Education. That's a really important letter, I think, for everybody to read. It's pretty easy to understand. It spells out pretty clearly, you know, year by year, what we're looking at for the next few years, what we're looking at in terms of our reserve, and what it's going to take to get to that 4%, and we know that that 4% is a bare minimum. I think I read somewhere, and I don't remember if it was in that letter, but the 10% number is what is recommended for basic aid districts.
Yes.
So can you maybe just shed a little bit of light on that? I think the question came up earlier is, where did that 10% number come? So it sounds like best practices for
And it
basic
might
A
even be,
districts.
it might even be 17%. Honestly, I think it's actually higher than 10% that like
Okay.
Schools for Sound Finance recommends. And,
Okay.
and a lot of that goes to the fact that as a basic aid school district, again, we are fortunate in that our property taxes are higher than what we would receive from LCFF. Should some legislation, something happen to change that process to where we would drop in revenues rather quickly, that reserve is there then to kind of balance that for a year or two while we make basically the reductions to kind of get in place. So it's really kind of that soft landing part of it, which is, again, it doesn't feel soft, right, as we go through this process, but it does help in terms of having to make massive reductions in 1 year. Mr. Unger can probably relate to that.
I was going to talk about
when
that.
he was on the board. So that's what they did,
Mhm.
which I'm sure he'll elaborate on when he speaks.
So so I do encourage everyone to read that letter, and just to be clear, what the letter is spelling out is the steps we need to take, the contingencies that need to happen, such that our calculations can't be dependent upon one time funding, because that's too precarious.
Yes.
So we have to take that out of the equation. And that ultimately what we're talking about here is maintaining that reserve that is required so that we do not enter this territory of getting really close to insolvency and having to be taken over by the state. So just to make that very clear, I think the letter makes that clear. So I just wanted to highlight that. Mr. Clausen, in response to your question about are there any impediments to a corporation contributing to a nonprofit or education foundation, and I don't know of any impediments. Corporations contribute to nonprofits all the time. So thank you for bringing that up again. And then with response to the suggestion about leasing properties. And so I understand how that allows us to, a sale would require us to put those proceeds into a separate account that would have to be restricted to capital improvements. I would just note that being a landlord is also very expensive. So although we may be making some money on payments as a landlord, we're going to have to be putting money into a property that needs a lot of work.
Which is our current concern with those properties.
Right.
Utilities in particular have just shot up. Cost of water, in particular at Sunnyside Elementary School. I think our water bill was $100,000 last year. So it's expensive to keep those properties.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Unger,
So-
and then Mrs. Sheffer.
A couple of things. First of all, I want to harken back to the year 2000 when I first got on the board, and I believe we faced a 10% reduction in our budget within 6 months. And at that point, we decided, and Mrs. Sheffer probably remembers that because she was on one of the committees then. At that point, we decided that we wanted to create or to have that 10% unrestricted reserve for exactly the purpose that we're talking about. We wanted to land the airplane and not crash it. Because that's exactly what happened in the year 2000. In addition, isn't it my understanding that there are other reasons we need to have at least a 10% reserve as a basic aid school district? And doesn't that have to do with leveling out our revenues throughout the year because of when property taxes come in?
So cash flow.
Cash flow. Aren't there cash flow reasons for that as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to make that really clear. I'm curious. I've gotten a couple of letters, I think everybody has gotten a couple of letters from people saying we want transparency about this process. I'd like to know specifically what we're thinking about in terms of transparency and informing the public, and what sort of input the public is going to get to you, Dr. Prater, and as you know, it will come to the board, obviously, as your recommendation to us. What will that look like? What do you envision that committee to look like? How do you envision that committee coming up with recommendations? How are you going to vet those things? how are we going to assure the transparency that people seem to think we're not providing with them? So I'd ask you that question, Dr. Prater.
I put together a timeline with those details, shared it with the board over the summer as a draft. I've been working with our team on this very question from traditional communication via newsletters to podcasts to videos to public forums. The Fiscal Sustainability Task Force, I envision involving fiscal experts. I'm considering folks at the County Office of Ed who are in the business office and have gone through these processes before. They're very intimate with these things and have some ideas that might be different than what we would normally get just from our inside folks. The union representatives would be a part of it. I would reach out to parents on the coast and in the city and try to create a balanced perspective. I intend to have it facilitated, so I'm not the one at the center of it, projecting my bias, right? And then the idea is that we would meet probably 3 times, and in those 3 meetings, we would present to the group. The first one would be, what are the facts? What are the details? What are the costs of everything? So Ryan's group, his initial foray into this is to bring forward all those details and costs, budget lines, everything. The first meeting would review those. The second meeting would begin to create the framework for proportional reductions and how that might look across our organization. Developing thresholds of reasonableness, looking at our contract, making sure that we don't violate our collective bargaining agreements, and examining potential revenue streams that we haven't examined before, right? And then the third meeting would coalesce all of that into a draft recommendation to me. I then would sit with it and make it so it's understandable, and I would bring that to you as a board and in November and have you publicly review it with me and go through it and then provide feedback and give me some ideas and give me input. Also, I would share that very transparently with the public, with parents, with our staff, and all the impacted parties. I would also share those things with our friends at PG&E, as well as in the Senate, legislature, so they understand what we're talking about here. And so I'm going to plan, my intention is to use the information, the facts, the details that matter. I plan on sharing that widely so that people understand, not just parents with kids, but people that do have the means to make a few sentence changes in the law that would allow these resources to come to us. As you saw, Mr. Lippert's sliver of what we're really talking about here is not, it's not significant to them. It's significant to us and to our community and to our kids. So really sharing the facts as best that I can. And so when I share this with you in November, my intention is to share it with everybody. Have you wrestle with it. You're not going to like any of it, because there's nothing we are doing that is not worthwhile and not thought about. You saw the presentations tonight. We're a serious organization doing serious things for kids. That summer program model that you saw tonight is a state model program developed over several years of intense thinking. We happen to get ELOP funding. I believe that program should be shared across the nation as a gold standard for what can be offered to students in the summer, right? And I feel the same way about many of our programs that we've developed in our district that are all going to be compromised because of this.
So a couple of things that I want people to be aware of. First is we talk about the leases and the chance that the opportunity to lease our facilities as opposed to selling them. And I would remind people, again, going back into the early 2000s about our Avila project that we're maybe finally completing. At the time, I think we were promised around $60 million over 99 years, and it won't even come close to that, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing I would talk about, Dr. Prater, is you're presenting this to the board. It will be the board's decision, and there will be plenty of opportunity for public engagement with the board about all this, and it's going to be some tough decisions we're going to have to make. The next thing, getting back to Mrs. Baltodano's comments, I have never seen a letter from the county office like the one I saw. In 25 years, I have not seen that kind of that level of concern. Exactly. I don't think I've ever seen us approaching 3% reserves, which is our statutory reserve. And it's very concerning to me when I read that letter. And then finally, to the question about who is contributing and who is not contributing, and what are people's abilities, corporations' abilities to contribute, positively to our schools and contribute money to them. I would just bring up the example of Trust Automation, who donated $250,000 over at least 3 years to our foundation to provide apprenticeship programs for our students. So there is the capability. I question whether there's the will.
Mrs. Shepherd.
Thank you. A couple of things. You know, something I'd first like to do is to express my appreciation to all those out there making an effort to help us with this. So, Mr. Lippert, we have parents, we have groups of people who have been trying who are aware of this and have been trying to work on our behalf. We have legislators. I appreciate their efforts. So far, they haven't made a lot of progress, but I hope that the amount of noise they're making will gradually garner some attention. But I know my colleagues and I have been sending letters. We've been doing our parts to try and raise the alarm of the impact that this is having on our district. And I know a few people referred to it long before I ever had any intention at all of seeing myself where I am today at this table. I was, as an involved parent and community member, I didn't know Mrs. I don't think I knew who you were. We didn't know each other. I was asked to serve as a community member on the task force, when the fiscal task force, when PG&E was going into bankruptcy in the year 2000. I can't remember, it was that long ago. I was so young. And what that experience was like, to come in as a community member who being in a completely different role as a parent of kids in the district, and what that looked like, and the serious nature of, at that time, the district basically lost 10% of its budget overnight.
It was like 6
months.
Yeah,
It was a huge shock to the system. We had good leaders in place at that time. We do again now, people who were able to help us navigate that. But it was a tough process. So I think something similar to what Dr. Prater is suggesting with the task force he'll put together, it was very similar. In a very short, very condensed period of time, huge decisions had to be made. And it was tough. I wanted to point out, just with Transparent California, that it is an amazing resource, but right now they're at 2023.
It's about a
with
year off.
salary reports. So with the information that Mr. Pinkerton has given in terms of increases, you can, it's close enough to at least have a sense. They are currently gathering data for 2024, but the information, if anyone goes to Transparent California and looks up salary information, it's based on data they have from 2023. And then with regard to leasing, I think right now, even with leasing some of our properties, we lose money. We're not netting very much because of the utilities and what we have to spend to keep those to keep the fields mowed and repairs that are maintenance and repairs that we need to be able to keep those operating at all. So
Correct.
our
We
net,
have backed off the number of people leasing our facilities, so that has,
right,
that's
but
why we're not getting as much in terms of lease revenue. But yes, the cost associated with both properties, in particular the utility aspect of it, has
Yeah.
grown
right,
remarkably, as you all know.
yeah.
As your own
So we
utility
don't-
bills, right? Your own house.
We're not realizing a lot of money.
Not a lot at
Yeah,
this point.
so-
Yeah. And
and
again,
then-
there is major capital improvement that's needed at both of
Right,
those sites.
right. And then lastly, with PG&E, it's my understanding that at this point, based on requests that have been made, the knowledge they have of our situation, that their stance is if you want money from us, it has to be legislated. So that onus is on us to make that happen by working with our legislators. They will give us money if and when forced to do so through legislation. So that's, and I'm looking at Dr. Prater to confirm, but based on conversations we've had, I hence again appreciation to our legislators, to Dawn Addis, and I know Senator Laird has taken an interest, but we have to continue to push our legislators and seek that kind of solution, because I don't believe PG&E will, they're not going to reach into their pockets unless forced to do so. Yeah, so thank you. That's all I got.
I don't know what hasn't been said. I think it's kind of all been said. What we're experiencing here is the perfect storm. And it's comprised of several, there are several reasons why we're experiencing this. In 2000, there was one reason. When Ellen and I were on that budget project committee for Dr. Ladd, it had to do with the PG&E bankruptcy solely. And we divided up into groups. I don't recall what group she was on. I was on the high school group. And we had to really look at making very, very tough choices that affected kids. But my memory is that the recommendations that came out of that group then went to Dr. Ladd, and he worked with the recommendations to develop his recommendation, and that's what he presented to the Board of Education. So I would like to have clarity that you are not going to be just bringing forward what the group recommends, but you will be inputting it as well as and you will be formulating the recommendation.
Correct. Yeah, I always will bring you a recommendation, and it'll be based on the framework and the feedback from that sustainability task force, some of which would be the same and some might be different.
Okay, thank you.
And you'll know the difference. Okay.
With regard to the reserve, we went from a 3% reserve to a 10% reserve. Chris is close, but I think it was about 2024 or 2004, geez. Because Schools for Sound Finance was telling us that that was the recommended reserve for basic aid school districts because of the uncertainties of our funding. And the board made the decision to go to 10%. They are now recommending, I believe it is 17% for basic aid school districts. There are some, from what I understand, that hold 100% in an unrestricted reserve. Well, that's certainly not us.
Probably small school districts.
But we are a low wealth basic aid district. We ride just above what our revenue limit would be. I think most recently you told me about $1,000 per pupil above. So we definitely need to be very mindful of the need for that reserve and to build it as quickly as we can without causing real harm to our employees. Our employees also are deserving of compensation. And so we will have to look at how we create that, but we need to create it, in my opinion.
We can pay less employees more, or we can pay more employees less. Right, it's often something that we talk about with them as we go through it, right? So having extra staff, of course, it's a working condition, right? Having less kids in your classroom, those types of things, right, that are important as we go through. So it's difficult in that, again, we're talking about kind of moving back and getting rid of, again, when you get rid of people, you get rid of programs. Yes. Things that we have added over the last few years that we find are very important to kids and are academically successful for kids, right? So most of the things we're talking about, it's, you know, we've already kind of cut elementary class size what we can. There's not a lot of room there in terms of more reductions there, right? So we're gonna have to look at other areas. Another thing that is difficult is that our special education costs continue to rise and become a bigger portion of our budget. And so that then makes it more difficult, right? Because what you actually have available to cut is reduced. So these are things that we're constantly battling, talking about how can we keep cut, you know, because you can't cut special education. You can try to contain it to the same budget year after year, right, for maintenance of effort. But that's why they become difficult, right, in terms of the choices and what we have. But we can do it. We will do it, right? It's about 3% of our budget that we need to reduce. So it's kind of how you look at it. And when you look at the individual people or programs, oh my God, you know, as the board all found out last year, right? Again, Mr. Lippert, fantastic for being here. Until you put that cut list out, you have empty board meetings, right? As soon as you put that list out, everyone will show up. Right. So, and then we get accused of not being transparent, and nobody talked about those types of things that goes on, even though we have board records and videos of it for the past 5 years where we've been talking about this. Right. So it's just and it's okay. Right. People have busy lives. They're worried about their kids, those types of things. Right. Like, I get it. And when something actually affects their students, they want to talk about it, and they should. So we will put this out in our staff newsletters. We will communicate it with our parent communication, right? I started a page of our website, which will have all this budget information, tonight's presentation, unaudited actuals, the 10-year budget. All of those things will be put out for public consumption that we will share and try to get people to read and know about as we go through this process, right? But it's, you know, it's still tough. It's still tough. It's going to be very difficult for you to make these decisions, right, in December. I'm very hopeful that property taxes are higher, and it makes it much, you know, just easier to do what we have to do to get
Are
rid
you
of the structural
hopeful
deficit.
or are you optimistic?
I try not to be optimistic. I'm a little more again, if the unitary tax is going to drop, if we can realize the property tax values, right, then that will be a huge help. I'm hopeful that will occur. But when the county sends me their estimates last year, and it says at the top, unitary reduction 10%, minus 10%, like, what am I to believe, right? So I hope that's the case come November and we
Well-
get those real numbers from the county.
When we received the ESSER funds, the post-COVID monies that we applied to programs and hiring staff to support students that were returning to us in
desperate need.
In desperate need, thank
Yes.
you. I mean, emotional need.
And academically.
And academic need.
Look at our
and-
scores.
So we knew at that time that when we hired a lot of people, we were not going to be able to sustain that employment when those funds ran out. But it seemed like off in the future then, and the need was so great that that's what we did. And we instituted new programs that we never had before, and they were highly successful. And now we want to keep those programs because they work, but we don't have the money to do it. So that's what makes these types of cuts so painful and difficult, is because we know that they work now that we've tried them, but we knew that we were going to have to make cuts when those funds ran out. So that's the horrible.
It's the balance. So again, the other part that I'll do as we go through this too is I outline which programs are paid through restricted funds. So people are going to say, what do you mean? You're cutting counseling and you're keeping this elaborate summer school program? What? When reality is, no. ELOP funds can't be used to save counseling, right? They can only be used for that summer program that's great for kids, right? So those are some of the, what's Title I funding? There's restricted dollars in some cases of how we use things. So those are other things, that funding sources that I'll be pointing out as we kind of lay out these budgets and what's actually available to be reduced.
How do we make clear to the public the difference between restricted and unrestricted? Because it's so important to our budget, and it's not something that people deal with in their family budgets or what have you.
I mean, we talk about it, but it's, again, often for people, it's what affects their student, their school, their life. So it's difficult.
Okay. I guess we're moving on then, unless there's any additional comment. Okay, 9.04.
Yes, Mrs. Roger, if it's okay, I'd just like to share with the board a request. 9.04 is about a permissible absence. Mrs. Roger is a private person and is going through a whole heck of a lot of stuff right now. And I think it's important that she be compensated under Ed Code provision for hardship for her absence. It's not a lot of money per se, but it's symbolic of the fact that she's leading this board as president and has done a phenomenal job, and while having to deal with tremendous adversity. So I'm asking for you to approve her absence under the hardship clause in this provision.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Oh, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this? Okay, thank you both.
I move to approve your reimbursement for that.
So I have a motion by Mr. Banfield and a second by Mr. Unger. No, by Mrs. Sheffer, I beg your pardon. So, Mr. Banfield.
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffer. Yes. Mrs. Baltadano.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Unger.
Yes.
Mr. Clausen.
Mr. Clausen, yes.
And I'll abstain. So that passes 5-0 with
Eric,
one
thanks for
absent
bringing
and
that
one
forward.
abstention. Come again, please. Oh, thank you. But I don't want anybody to go away from this meeting thinking that, I am ill again or anything. My mother, it appears my mother has pancreatic cancer. And so I am needed to help. So let's move on. Oop. Yeah, we have some board policy revisions. Mrs. Yamashita, they're all yours. 9.05 is proposed revision to board policy 5145.7, sexual harassment. This is a first reading.
Yes, good evening, board. This is a first reading. It comes to us recommended through gamut updates related to the changing Title IX definitions related to the national political scope of what qualifies as protected classes and groups. So with that, this is the first reading to update our policy to the new Title IX related guidances per CSBA. I recommend that we bring it back for a second reading if no one has
Thank
questions.
you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this item? Anyone from the board? Then I'm seeking a motion and a second to.
We can just bring it back.
We can just bring it back?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Then thumbs up or thumbs down?
Yep.
Okay. 9.06, proposed revisions to board policy 5144, discipline and personal responsibilities, a first reading.
Yes, thank you. This discipline policy, we want to update it because we are trying to ensure that students are impacted by student discipline policies and practices, and the governing board should be careful to enact rules that are effective in providing interventions and supports, as well as maintaining safety and order on campus. Specifically, it's also adding an update that students may not be denied recess unless their participation proposes an immediate threat in the physical safety of other students. So that was a new law added to California Ed Code through the governor's office. And so this policy is being updated to include that. So I'd like to bring this back for a second reading.
Okay, thank you. Is the board in agreement with bringing it back? Okay. 9.07, proposed revisions to board policy 5145.6, parent or guardian notifications, a first reading.
This is one of the gamut updates that has kind of been in the queue for a while, but we're just getting to it. It is a policy that's updated to clarify the importance of effective communication between district and schools to families, and that parents and guardian signatures, they need to like sign their receipt of the annual, a signature acknowledging receipt of the annual notifications is not required. We do our annual notifications to parents through ARIES, our student information management system. Deb Maxwell and Jamie Fazio in the IS&T office and myself and Mr. Pinkerton and Dr. Puccia all work together in the late springtime to ensure that our annual notifications meet all the new legal requirements and are updated, and that our schools give us input as well into what's part of that. And so we're just trying to update our policy to keep it current.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? So the law doesn't require like a wet signature from a parent, but in ARIES, parents need to check that they have received, and reviewed those notifications. So just want to confirm that and make that clear.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, then is it your recommendation this be brought back?
Please, yes. And if you notice any errors or feedback before the second reading, please reach out to Ms. Maxwell and myself.
Okay, is the board in agreement on bringing it back? Okay. 9.08 is proposed revisions to board policy 6163.4, student use of technology, again, a first reading.
So this is an exciting one for us because this policy update addresses student use of technology, including artificial intelligence. So we had been talking about artificial intelligence, and one of the major recommendations of all the national organizations, including the president and the governor, is that we need to have board policies in place regarding and governing our use of artificial intelligence products. And so this is our first step in that direction. It's also to try and make sure the students' effective use of technology that supports teaching and learning and aims to close the digital divide so that all students can equitably access the latest digital tools and technology. I will still be convening an artificial intelligence committee of parents and staff members and students later on this school year to develop more procedure level decisions about artificial intelligence at this time, but this just makes it clear to students and families through our acceptable use policies that they cannot use artificial intelligence for plagiarizing or copyright related issues.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that we are really fortunate in our district that we have a leader in this field who has been helping throughout the county and I believe outside the county, statewide, and Jeremy Kellish. And he is a wonderful resource to us and is being discovered far and wide as a resource to others in his ability to navigate these treacherous waters of AI. So shout out to Jeremy, bottom line.
Absolutely. Okay, is it your recommendation this be brought back?
Yes, I should also.
Another comment. I'm sorry, Mr. Clausen, hi.
It's okay. So I just have maybe a tactical question. Like on board policies like this, where there's a significant amount of new content, but it seems like it's interspersed with like some words that pre-existed. I have a really hard time tracking the red line version of it to understand what existed previously. I mean, is this basically a net new policy almost? I mean, because like I look at the red line version and the first paragraph's mostly new, but there's like some random words that suggest they pre-existed. I think I'm just caught up in the track changes methodology.
Let me get my right copy. Hang on a second. Are you looking at the tracking changes version, Mr. Clausen?
Yeah. So
with
like
red and blue?
So it's blue.
Yeah, there's blue down there. So
the first paragraph is all new. The second paragraph.
essentially the first paragraph is all new and essentially the second paragraph is all new. The third paragraph that is blue that starts with district technology includes is essentially a rewrite of the paragraph below.
Yeah,
And it's blue because Jeremy and our district director team had rewritten that one so that it covers accurately specific to us.
Okay, so maybe I just need an offline training, but like the second paragraph, for example, would suggest that the words "the board" are new, but "intends that" are not new. But I don't understand how there'd be a paragraph that just says "intends that." Like there's no words struck out. But like I would expect, some words to be eliminated, some would be added, and it just shows like.
I see
Do you
your
understand
point.
my question?
I do understand your question. Let me see if I have in my packet the older one.
So maybe if there's just like an original version.
That's what I was trying to. I don't think I have we have had this policy for a long time, actually. Looks like it was all the way back in 2003. But I'm sorry, Mr. Clausen, I do not have with me the current standing policy printed here.
So maybe it just seems like the struck out words are not always showing. Am I interpreting that correctly?
They should be, but it does appear that in this case they are not.
Okay.
You could go online to our current published, if you go on in the board section of our website to our online policies in the document library and search by this number, the one that is posted would be what it currently is.
Okay.
If to be able to compare what you're asking for.
Was there a way just to include what we're, like make the track changes version just show the deletions in addition to the additions? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
we can discuss that with Ms. Maxwell.
Okay.
I'll reach out to you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so it will be coming back in the form that we are seeing currently?
That is my recommendation, but if other board members have changes they would like to see, we should discuss those now.
Mr. Banfield?
Yeah, I didn't realize that this was also some sort of a legal document, in that it says, upon signing, and I remember this as a teacher, you'd send it home, the first day packets, and you'd get that back, right? It says here, upon signing it, the student and the parent guardian shall agree not to hold the district or any district staff responsible for the failure of any technology protection measures or user mistakes or negligence, and shall agree to indemnify and hold harmless the district and district staff for any damages or costs incurred. You want to, just for everybody's sake, what are we talking about? Harmless, any damages or costs?
Well, it could be related to let me find the spot you were reading. You're talking about the AUP, the acceptable use policy.
It is the acceptable use.
Here we go. Well, it does mean that, for example, if a website were to allow students to view inappropriate images, a family could not then hold us personally, civilly liable for their child viewing an image that was offensive or upsetting.
I call that smart.
It also means that if staff accidentally were to use negligence and put personally identifiable student information into a website or misuse student information, then we would, of course, disciplinarily still hold the staff member accountable and do follow up with that staff member, but a family could not come back with civil concerns, is the way I read that.
Mrs. Baltodano?
Yeah, I'm not finding the language exactly, but my understanding of the acceptable use policy that we ask students and parents to sign every year is that we won't be held responsible if they're not using something responsibly. So if they are hacking a website that we have protected them from an inappropriate image, but they're somehow hacking around that, that's not an acceptable use of our school devices. So we can't be held responsible for that.
Yes, that would also be true.
Right.
Okay, so where are we? Have we decided to bring this back? Okay, and we have thumbs up on that. So then let's move on to the action consent agenda. Please let me know if you would like anything pulled. We have item 10.1, approval of the minutes of September 2nd, 2025 and September 11th, 2025. 10.2, acceptance of donations. 10.3, approval of certificated and classified personnel items. 10.4, approval of furniture and equipment requests. Seeing nothing pulled, then I am seeking a motion and a second.
I will move to accept items 10.01 through 10.04.
And I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Mrs. Sheffer, a second by Mr. Unger. Mrs. Sheffer? Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Banfield?
Yes.
Mrs. Beltodano?
Yes.
Mr. Clausen?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That passes 6-0 with one absent. The advanced agenda. Well, I don't see anybody speaking up. Reports by board members.
I just have a question.
Sure.
We're tired, it's a long meeting, so I'm not going to give a report, but I'm just wondering if it has ever been custom for board members to provide a written report, like a little couple of sentences, because I feel like we often get to the end of the meeting and we don't really hear those reports, and we're all off attending meetings. I was in full day session with middle school and high school, staff on our University of Washington stuff. There's stuff to report on, and we're all on committees, so we should be reporting things out, but the meetings get really long. So I'm just wondering if those reports have ever been provided in writing, that they can be added to the agenda so that we can still share them.
The answer is no. And that has not happened previously, although that's something that could certainly be entertained if that was the board's desire.
And it wouldn't be a requirement. It's just that if you had something that you wanted to share, because I do like hearing from my colleagues.
So how do I proceed with this, since that's not agendized? Do we have to agendize that, or can we agree? Okay, so, good, we never used that one. Let's go to that one.
Or we can discuss that idea, and it could be I could discuss the idea inside President Clerk on Monday and throw it out as another way for board members to participate in that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be a formal discussion.
I think it's just another option.
Would you foresee then that would be on the it wouldn't be on the consent agenda, it would just be an attachment to?
Nothing would change. It would be just in the agenda under board reports. Mr. Clausen reported blah, 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 blah. And it wouldn't be a requirement that anyone would have to submit anything, but if there was anything they wanted to share and didn't want to do it at 9:45 at night.
I think that's very reasonable.
Very doable.
Okay, so we'll if it works for everyone, we'll discuss it in clerk, how to facilitate doing that. Okay.
And I'll work with Mandy on how to create a link.
Okay. Then that's it. Seeing nothing further, we are adjourned at 9:43. Whew. This was a long damn meeting.